Okay, everyone. Good evening. That should do. Should be all set. Oops. Alright. So, tonight, as promised, I'm going to be talking about some issues of, the center and the margin, the same kind of stuff that we've been looking at throughout while we've been talking about Red Dead. If you guys do want to talk about more topical stuff, more philosophically topical stuff, like the SCOTUS reading group stuff that we've been going through, by all means, I'm happy to change topics to it. I'm happy for a nice distraction from absurdities going on. But I'm sure, going to be relating some of this stuff to issues going on in society right now, because I've been seeing these kinds of conflicts arise and arise and arise and arise. Kevin, if you're here, you know exactly what I'm talking about, so that'll be fun. In any case, though, it should be good, and it also should tie in really well, I think, to especially what's going on right around now. Especially in, like I said, it'll turn into some interesting symbolic inversions, because we have some neat inversions of the margin in the center, or at least the symbolic margin in the center, and we have people who have represented some things now beginning to represent other things in different ways, at least as I see it, and hopefully we'll kind of see what I wind up talking about. But yeah, once again, it really will bring to a head, I think. It'll really bring to our attention, maybe I should say, a lot of the really fundamental aspects of the conflicts that we see in society pretty much whenever. In this case, obviously, right, in the case of Red Dead, we're talking about, at this phase, we're talking about the kind of becoming part of civilized society, but at the same time, it's a society which is not centralizing, which is not urban. It's this down-home little southern town, which forms its own kind of a center, which is at the margin. Because you'll notice, eventually you'll notice, while the gang are deputies in Rhodes, they don't have any conflicts with the law. The Pinkertons don't show up, right? At least they haven't yet. They do come back eventually. Hey, Kevin. They do come back eventually, not to worry. We are going to be dealing with our old protagonists, the Pinkertons. Eventually, again, we almost certainly will not get to our next encounter with them tonight. But for now, things shifted a bit in our representations of the center and of the margins are shifting as well. And what that means for the kind of state of the conflict is also a bit different, right? It changes how things work and how things look. But now, if you came here for me to say, in particular, the one phrase which I've been waiting to say out loud and on stream for quite some time, I am also going to be talking about various rootless urban parasites, and who I think represents such a force of destruction in Red Dead, and of course who I think represents such a force of destruction in real life. Let's talk to Lenny first. I think this is when we go over to Shady Belle, if I remember correctly, if I'm thinking of the right quest. I also do, if we're talking about weird symbolic inversions, there's a thing up this way that I really want to go see. It's a side quest that happens up there. I want to see if I can see if it's hopefully it's not too early to start it.
Well,
because it is a circus of absurdities, so to speak, and it fits very well with the theme of what I'm really wanting to talk about here. So let's see. Lenny wants something. I think we are heading off to some old plantation house, if I remember what this quest is correctly. So we'll see.
Arthur. Yes, kid. You got a lot on?
I don't know what that means, but all right.
Just hunting for all this hillbilly gold that Dutch and Hosea seem to think is Out there just waiting to be stolen. Why?
I got something. Could be good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was in Rhodes talking to some of the colored folk. They said there's a gang of fools holed up in the swamps east of here who think their war ain't never ended.
The Civil War?
Yeah, apparently it's still raging in these fools' minds 30 years later.
Okay.
That ain't my point. These ignorant fools are weapon dealers.
It's making me want some beef
And in their
jerky. I
dealings
had
sometimes
some. I just
sit
made
on a
some.
decent pile
So,
of cash. Yeah,
hear
been
me
selling
chewing,
weapons
just
to
tell me to
Cuba
stop,
and
and I
South
will.
America for years. Anyway, the old boy I was talking to reckoned there might be a bunch of cash just sitting around. And failing that, maybe a nice stash of weapons.
With just a bunch of crazies, Gardner?
Exactly.
Well, worth taking a look at least, isn't it?
That was my thinking. Said it was at some place called Shady Bear, deep in the woods.
Okay.
So yeah, this place does become pretty important.
All right, then. Let's go
Kevin
rob
says I
some
like
fools.
biltong better these days. I have still been really wanting to try it. It's just a pain to make by comparison. I've got a food dehydrator. I have I've got a jerky recipe that has been serving me good for something like 25 years at this point. Longer than I have realistically. I was about to say longer than I've been able to chew beef jerky,
Okay, fella.
but I literally teethed on beef jerky, so maybe it was a little
Come
more
on.
than 25
It's
years.
this way. On me.
But yeah, it's a really it works. It works, and I'm not one to mess with a good thing. I do want to try it. I do want to try making biltong at some point. The issue is having it out somewhere, presumably getting a box and all that. And I just didn't happen to have. I was thinking about trying it this time, but I didn't have the spice blend on hand.
I might have
Didn't
met these
vinegar and
crazies
such.
before.
So
You been drinking again?
No. Well, yes, but no, that's not how I might have met them. I think some of them harangued me and Sadie when we were coming back with supplies.
Mrs. Adler.
Yeah. And Mrs. Adler did just fine. More than fine, actually. She's terrified. But I got a notion these fellers is one and the same.
And we won't find no shortage of angry Peckerwood idiots in the state of Lemoyne. That's for sure.
Is it really that different in this state? We haven't come far.
It seems like it is.
These boys got a manner about them, but I haven't necessarily noticed.
All respect, Mr. Morgan. You wouldn't notice. Might call you a nigger lover. They see us riding like this. But most of it is a glance or a word. And after that, a
oh, my
visit in
video
the
doesn't
night.
get taken down.
Well, out west, it's
Out west is out west. And you're all who you are. Right? Decent folks. But some places down here, they judge differently.
well, now, guess it can't be so easy for you, Lenny. Sorry you're caught up in this.
Well, I guess their gold's still shining, and their guns still shoot. So I'm game for robbing any and every one of these bastards for all they got.
Okay then.
Plus, it beats being lynched back in Blackwater with all of you by my side.
I guess it does.
Yeah, so this is part of it. I will say. So I mean, we did the plot with the old, I guess you'd call him a retired slave catcher last week. Good to see that. But yeah, there's the negative aspects of Southern culture here that makes it a little bit harder to for a quite so integrated and to use modern terms, a diverse group as the Vanderlyn gang to do so well down here. Oh, I need to give my horse something to eat. There we go.
You all right, boy?
So that's part of the problem, right? And that's presumably has something to do with why things don't pan out down here.
Feels like we're close. It's a rundown old plantation house down in the bayou somewhere.
Let's take it slow. Be cautious.
But I will say also,
like you say, these crazies are sitting on weapons.
Oh.
We're gonna want to strategize a little before getting shot at.
oh, hold on.
Of course. They said find the old battlefield and keep on going.
Well, we got some wrecked old Civil War weaponry. Now where are the wrecked old Civil War holdouts?
You see that church up ahead? They're supposed to use it as an outpost. Heard they got men going between here and the big house all day.
Okay.
Yeah, so the other part of it, which we're going to start seeing as we go through this, is Dutch just being incapable of letting
Look at
sleeping
this
dogs
fear.
lie,
Imagine getting caught up in a fight like
and
this.
just kind of being incapable
Yeah, I
of
don't care to.
settling down and doing something that's steady and consistent. He's got to always have
Hold
the
those
next plan.
reins in. Let's just take a look around the
The
place.
trouble with that, of
I hear
course, is that once something
it doesn't look like
decently
anyone's
good,
here.
being sheriff's
We
here,
don't know that for sure. Let's have us a nosy.
have a what? Oh, he's drawing it. Nice.
Say something if you're gonna stop, okay? Hear that? Someone's on the track.
Let's get our guns out. There. Oh, there's somebody. But yeah, it's basically
Look
impossible
there.
for Dutch
Whack.
Let's see where he's going.
to just sort of sit
You're
still
on me now.
Right behind you.
and
Let's keep our distance. Just two fellers out on the road.
Hey,
basically he
That
can't
look like
just
dynamite in
he
the
can't just
backyard?
deal with
It looks like
a nice
we're up to
stable,
something.
honestly a decent kind of living for him and everybody. Kevin says I figured Kylie would be here from by now. She may not be joining us tonight.
I think I see something. End of the
She's
avenue,
been having
between the
a
trees.
headache kind of thing today,
it.
from what I've been hearing. So
Might be.
she might not be joining us
Keep it
tonight.
steady.
But, we'll see. She might stop by later, but we'll find out.
Hey, big plantation house. Must be Shady Bear. I reckon we can leave our mounts up there, off the trail.
Yeah, good idea.
Good enough to me.
Okay.
Come on. We can get a view on them from that wall up there. Make sure you bring your sharpshooter. I'll take the other side. You get in cover there.
Okay. So, but yeah, what I was saying, like Dutch can't just live, right? He has to try
You see
and do
anything?
the next crazy thing.
Yes.
Here, he's got to try and take advantage of the family feud going on here. He can't just deal with. He can't just continue doing what he's been doing.
You got men covering the
Being a
house.
sheriff's deputy, maybe even covering
dynamite
covering for the
crates us.
crimes of his gang, any of that kind of stuff. It seems like it'd work
right?
just fine.
Oh, we got something. We can hit him.
But no, he's got to
head
do.
on,
He's
fight
got
him
to.
honest.
He's got to shoot too high. He's got to overshoot.
You
He's got
could
to go
go
crazy.
down there acting friendly.
Friendly? With these folks?
Just draw them into one spot, then I'll start shooting.
Well, that might be the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But hey, I'm always up for a performance. Just give the...
We're gonna hit them head on. You save the play acting
Let's
for Hosea and the girls.
blow up the dynamite.
Fine by me. Soon as you shoot, I'll go.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Hey! You all being robbed!
Oh, that's a dummy. Ah. He's got me there.
Listen up!
There.
There.
Go on.
Ooh, took the shoulder. Oh. Oh, he's... Okay.
Keep your head down, kid. I'll take
There we go. Dealing with these sorts of situations by sniping. It's not through the whole over-dramatic reading of stuff. I'm sorry. I think it must be all the dynamite and stuff. Sorry about that. Oh, where's that? There he is. Oh, there's one. Oh, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. Is that it? I need my hat.
Quick! Any men in the area would have heard that. They might be on the way. Now let's grab something and get out.
Sounds like a plan.
Need my hat. I'm also going to loot everyone. So meanwhile, while I'm looting everybody, yeah, like I was saying, I think this is really one of the things I really want to mention is that
Oh, yeah.
I said that that this town, Rhodes, and Lemoyne in general, but especially Rhodes, I can't really say Lemoyne in general because what's it called?
Still nothing.
Got to do that when you can. Because Saint-Denis is part of Rhodes, or part of Lemoyne too, and that's very much urban and centralized, and that's not this kind of out in the sticks kind of thing. But this being so out and away and peripheral and small towny and all that kind of thing, it turns into the kind of, it's, like I said, its own center around the margin of greater society. And so Dutch, being a couple of things, first of all being an outlaw, but then second of all being a northerner. Right? Dutch is very much a Yankee, temperamentally and all that. Right? And even historically, I think. There is a kind of antagonism he has with the South in general, and with Southern society, and a kind of contempt he shows for it that really is usually more often typified by the kind of the Yankees in terms of, where the term comes from, yanking, trying to yank things together, so to speak, right? Trying to yank the South into itself, trying to over-centralize things, and that whole thing, right? It's the centralizing impulse that I keep talking about. But in that case, when put into contrast with Southerners, right, like the kind of folks you find here, Dutch sort of takes on the character of that kind of centralizer, that kind of there being right. He's in kind of opposition to these Southern folks doing their own thing down here and doing things their way. He holds them in contempt and wants to. We barely began, but we are beginning to see a kind of a case where Dutch is prone to spreading his ways and making things work his way, rather than just letting things work how they work, right? Rather than just kind of things going the way that they go, and just wanting to be left alone. It becomes a more of a point of this kind of centralizing imperialism that we keep talking about, right? That we keep seeing, where Dutch sees, you know, the Southerners down here as just fundamentally dumb people who are not interested in society as he sees it, and he is interested in society. It's just his kind of society, and you start to see that, right? That wasn't nearly as obvious when it was him against the expanding influence of American society as a whole, represented by the Pinkertons, right? You don't see Dutch as centralizing; you see him as purely periphery. And while most of the gang is still that kind of outlaw, and pure outlaw, those who are outside of any kind of society, right? Arthur included, right? That's not what I meant. So even Arthur is, like I said, outside of anything that we would reasonably call society. Dutch has higher aspirations to kind of form his own society and then form and do things the way he sees fit, the way he thinks they ought to be done, and sort of bring people into that, whether that's just the gang, or as we see here, whether that might even include the folks around here, right? Making the people around here do things his way. Hey, look, dynamite. I wonder if I can shoot that without dying. I'm gonna try it. Oh, lost my hat, but I'm okay. I'm not dead. It hurt, but I'm okay. Alright, that was fun. That was worth it. Is that my hat? I hope that's my hat. Yeah, it's my hat. Anyway, that was fun. Glad I did that. I'm gonna go upstairs. You have to blow up everything at every opportunity, obviously. If there's dynamite around, you gotta use it. Anyway, so what I was saying. I'm not gonna do that yet. Oh, look, more dynamite. I'm gonna... should I? I really wanna. I'm gonna... Oh, almost died. Okay, I'm alright. Alright, I'm gonna stop it. That's enough. Alright, that's enough. I need a snack. Whoops. There we go. That was dumb. Alright, I'm gonna stop blowing up dynamite now, for the moment. Money flip. Ooh, money. Could use some money. Hey, WizKid, welcome, 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 welcome. I've been just kind of talking about what I promised to talk about, the kind of rootless urban parasites and whatnot, and the strange phenomenon, or strange as I've seen it, of the kind of inversions that we're starting to see take place, where even Dutch and the gang are starting to be, Dutch in particular, is starting to be a more of an urban type. And that's starting to have weird influences on not just his behavior, but how he interacts with a lot of the world, right? And how he interacts with people around here, right? And how he sees them. Oh, hey, Flaco Hernandez, we shot him. Cool. Oh man, I can't carry another pocket watch. Like, wasted money right there is what that is. Okay, is that fire getting out of control? I might have to leave soon. There's a chest under here, and I want it. I want it. Probably money in that. But yeah, WizKid, like I said, I mentioned earlier, and it was just Kevin, that Kylie may not be joining us tonight. She's not feeling a little under the weather tonight, so she may come by later. We'll see how she's doing, but from what I hear, she's not feeling the best. So she might not be around tonight. We'll see. There we go. That's always so much fun. All right, worth it. Can I hit this lantern? I'm gonna wait until I'm down the stairs so I can get past it and I don't die. There. And of course, I'm gonna check through this area before I blow up the dynamite. See if there's anything worth looting here. Gun oil. Oh, do I need to polish anything? Yeah, I do. WizKid says, hope she feels better soon. I've been having a shitty time of it lately as well. So, yeah, that's we're all hoping the best for everybody who's usually around. If she winds up watching the replay at some point, we will express to her our hopes for her feeling better that way. There's dynamite, but I have to be very careful because I'm in a room full of dynamite. So I need to do this in a very subtle sort of way. In a way that I don't die. Because I don't want to die. Okay, ready? I'm going to do that, see if that sets it off. And then I'm going to do... Yeah. Oh, come on, really? Alright, fine. Alright, let's see how this turned out. Did it blow up everything? Yeah, it didn't blow up everything. There we go. This is not smart of me. I shouldn't be... Oh, geez, I'm on fire. That's not good. That's not good at all. Why am I picking him? Oh no, my hat! My hat burned! Oh no! I mean, I should be upset about having set myself on fire, but I'm also upset that my hat burned. Oh no. It's really disappointing. Oh well, it's fine. Everything's fine here. How are you? I mean, aside from not great, how are you guys? Alright, let's see. What? I can't even shoot through it. That's annoying. Alright, let's call it there as far as blowing things up. I will get a new hat, don't worry. There's another one on the horse. WizKid said, I missed this. We all know how much I loathe and despise the cities. Yeah, very much so. That's very clear. I tend to agree. More and more these days, I agree. I'm very gradually becoming more and more of a ruralite, if that's a term. I think it is. If not, you know, I'm a country bumpkin these days. Very glad to be. Oh, you're not zucked anymore. Oh, you were. I didn't even know you were. That's disappointing. I should know that. Should be able to find that sort of thing out, but oh well. There's a bunch of things. Can I pick them up? There we go. Nice. There's nothing in it. That's dumb. That's dumb too. There's nothing in here of any use. Oh, come on. No, no. Okay. Come on, Arthur. You can do it. It's a crate. It's treasure. WizKid says, enjoy your life as a country bumpkin. Yeah, I do. I do. It's weird, but I do. I grew up in some of the most suburban suburbs that have ever been urban adjacent. Just basically miles and miles of suburban sprawl. And it's very different being out in the middle of nowhere. Quite frankly, it's nice. Being away from all sorts of trouble. In the very particular right now kind of thing.
We can sell those, right?
We sure can. We'll check the rest later.
In the very particularly right now kind of context,
Let's go.
There's no mask requirement up here in the middle of nowhere, which is very nice right now. Which of course there's not. It's in the middle of nowhere. Since the outbreak started, there have been 5 deaths in this county.
I think you could
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The end.
Yep.
So, that should mean that there is a response appropriate to such a thing. And over a corpse. So WizKid says,
Come on. G up. Fall in.
come on, horse. WizKid says, yeah, I got zucked for saying I hate the... I hate the Iranians, as opposed to I hate the Iranian government. Nice to know Zuck, that guy, supports state terrorism.
Right. Coming our way. Keep it down.
I guess I can see a distinction there.
Black feller doing coming out of Shady Bell. In one of our wagons. Oh.
We was doing some business with your brothers back
Uh-oh.
there.
You don't look like any kind of folk we deal with.
Our business was conducted to the satisfaction of all parties. Until now, that is.
Nope. No. Something don't feel right about this. Not him and not you neither, Yankee. Get these lying bastards! Arthur, let's go!
I may have shot the horse. Got him.
Leonard.
I'm looking, all right?
May have run over
I
the
can't see anyone
horse.
chasing us.
It's fine.
I should think we're out of the woods then, so to speak.
Boy, oh boy.
You did good.
We did it.
I really should have been more careful there, given that this thing's full of dynamite.
I know Sean's been bringing in quite a lot lately, and I wanted to... It's good to have something to show like this.
Sean's a loudmouth bragger. Don't worry about what Sean does.
Hey, I like them, you know?
Well, so do I. Guess my better judgment. Just, you worry about you. He wasn't on Leviticus Cornwall's train with me. We had to dig him out of Blackwater.
But...
But nothing. Me and Dutch, and everyone who counts. We know what you do for this gang. We notice. Keep it up. You're gonna start seeing things change for you.
Okay, then. Okay. Thank you, Arthur.
WizKid says, it just irritates me to know so much because of the context of the post I was commented on would demand I was talking about their government, but apparently Facebook didn't see it that way. I didn't see it that way because the more censorious types in today's culture tend to be completely immune to any context. There was a story.
The camp's in these trees up here.
Yes.
Let's get there.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a recent story about a BLM supporter woman who was fired from her job because of something she posted on I think it was TikTok.
Arthur, Lenny, coming back.
Where she made a joking comparison about stabbing All Lives Matter supporters. So then she could say something like,
keep one, just
like,
for me. Hey,
show her paper cut, like say, "Oh, all cuts matter," right? Basically, she's criticizing the All Lives Matter thing and saying that
Anytime,
the point of Black Lives Matter is to say that it's not that certain lives matter more than others. The whole point is to say that certain problems are more severe. Yada yada yada. Okay, we get it, right? Decent point. It's not funny, but it is a joke. Right? Anybody who actually saw what she said in context knows very clearly that it was a joke. It's just that people are not capable of understanding that, especially people who are prone to cancel people. Right? Yeah. Hat's back. All right. Okay. We got to go to. Grays. First, I'm going to run up this way because, like I said, there's something up here, something crazy up here. I think it's up this area. There's just this great, this wonderful side quest that's really relevant to everything that will get me kicked off YouTube forever. If you've played this, you know what I'm talking about, probably. Will this pet take me through Rhodes? Because, no, I gotta go through via Rhodes, because I want to stop at the gunsmith and customize my new rifle. He's got a new rifle, guys. Yeah, basically, oh yeah, I don't. It was I get what she's trying to say, and she said it in a kind of pretty unfunny and a pretty unfunny way, and a pretty aggressive sounding kind of way. But at the same time, it was a joke, right? It's not like, yeah, it's not like it was actually a threat or anything. Like people who are incapable of reading context and nuance took it to be. Hi, Alan. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Not see you exactly. But yeah, there's a kind of lack of context, lack of being able to read circumstances, lack of being able to read tone, to hear tone, because it was a video she posted. It wasn't even text. It was clearly, well, I mean, she's from the little bit of the clip I saw, because I didn't even actually see the whole thing. I just heard about this vaguely, and I think I saw but didn't hear it, because it was just one of those things that was in my timeline just kind of going silently, and I didn't click it, sort of thing. But in any case, it was it looked like she was, angry and being aggressive, I guess, but it's not like, right? I was perfectly clear that I was under no impression that she was actually going to stab someone or was threatening to stab someone. But that was very obvious to me. And I feel like it probably ought to have been very obvious to just about anybody.
You're in here, thief.
What?
What can I do for you, huh?
I'm a deputy, sir. I don't know what's going on there. New rifle. Nice.
That gun seems to be well taken care of.
Better rifling?
If you're serious about your shooting, you'll want to add sights to your gun.
Absolutely. And a scope.
That'll help, I'm sure.
And... ooh, that straight grain's nice. That looks nice.
That's a wise investment.
No wrap.
Interested in engraving some? Make that weapon your own.
Nah, let's go with... ooh. Dark Rosewood's very nice. Yeah, that'll do. WizKid says, how can people be that tone deaf? It's going to be the death of our society if people start to realize how dangerous that is.
You're going to buy something, right?
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say that it's not just that is... I mean, sure, that'll be the death of our society.
Make sure you got
if all manner of other things aren't the death of our society first, because there's a lot of competing factors that are trying to end our society. So, that's the thing. Alan asked, do you like the game? I absolutely love it. I've played it all the way through once, off stream. Not quite 100%. I didn't get all the achievements, but I did all of the missions and most of the collectibles and things. Fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal. If you like open world at all, you will like this game. In addition, if you like open world stuff, you'll like this game. If you like the Old West atmosphere and a kind of cinematic feel, you'll like this game. If you're a fan of other Rockstar games, the kind of sandboxy kind of thing where it's very mission driven, but set in a wide open sandbox, the kind of GTA or Bully is actually a really good comparison. Then you would love this game. So I very highly recommend it. There's even some really nice survival elements to it, which are almost surprising. You don't see that kind of thing. Oh wait, fence. You don't see that kind of thing in too many modern games. A lot of RPGs drop out things like the temperature and that mattering. It matters what kinds of clothes you're wearing and stuff like that.
By any chance? All right then, better be good.
I do not. So Alan asking how do you get fast cash online? I assume you're meaning in game, like online. I have not even tried the online multiplayer version, so I couldn't really tell you.
Fine, I could take more.
I know there are plenty of guides and other YouTubers who do the multiplayer, and I might at some point because it does look pretty fun. But I'm not actually sure. I don't know how similar it is to the single player. In the single player, the absolute best way of making money if you don't care about your honor is stealing coaches. And I think online you can do similarly, and it's relatively lucrative there from what I've heard. But once again, I haven't tried it yet, and I probably will. Maybe one of these nights for a stream, I will. I'll just go through and we'll just jump into a multiplayer game with anybody who wants to jump in with me. Hey, look. Speaking of reasons why it's kind of not great to live in the South with everybody like this, I'm just not for any particular reason. I just might need that on my person for some reason.
Because we are here today.
I'm not sure why. Just hypothetically.
Special occasion. It is imperative that we reestablish sanity and supremacy before it is too late. Our numbers are waning, thanks to the fools in Congress and their ludicrous ideas. But today, we grow one stronger as we anoint a new brother into our sacred cause. Please step forward and kneel.
Yes, Kevin. A birthday
Do
party.
you choose to accept the light?
WizKid has bully playthrough when? I'd like to. I don't actually have it. I've only played parts of it, and I never actually bought the thing.
The eternal light.
Somebody wants to get it for me. Steam Summer Sale. That's the thing right now. Well, I'm gonna back away.
Somebody wait! Where y'all going? Come back! Come back! You there. You just stood and watched a good man die. And did nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna punch you. Okay. It's gonna knock you over. See what happens.
Goddamn hooded rodents. I'll kill all you bastards.
Just go to sleep. Oh, I'm gonna. Ooh! I bet you have nice racist stuff on you. No, don't worry, WizKid. They burn themselves. You don't really need to. Ooh, a document. Meeting notes. Oh God, what? Okay. More. Oh God, no. The KKK titles, such as Secretary, Grandiose Scribe, Grand Satyr, yeah, so, alright. Neat. Female members still affirm no. Well, okay, anyway, neat. So yeah, don't worry, I didn't need to set them on fire. They managed that themselves. My horse is terrifying. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're leaving. We're leaving, buddy. Alright, let's get out of here.
There, boy.
Okay, well that was silly. Anyway. His kid says, "Oh shit, I forgot they just fuck themselves." Oh, it's great. I haven't played The Last of Us 2, Alan. I have heard every good thing and every bad thing there is to hear about it. It's less of my kind of thing, I think. I'm not a big survival horror kind of game player. I actually didn't play the first The Last of Us. I watched a playthrough of it a few years ago, quite a while after it came out. But I never actually played it. The first one looked fantastic. I've heard good things about 2, and I've heard awful things about 2. I don't know. I don't go to my video games for controversy. I mean, aside from KKK members setting themselves on fire, but that's not that controversial, I don't think. I don't think it is. This kid says, honestly, this is one of my favorite random encounters in the game. Yeah, and it happens multiple times with different crazy, idiotic things happening. I don't think every time they light themselves on fire. At some point, I think someone shoots themselves or shoots somebody else in the leg or something, and once again, it disperses. Apparently, just like today, there are very, very few KKK members, and every single one of them is hilariously incompetent. Which is good, really. That's just how I like my racists. Small in number and hilariously incompetent. They're great to laugh at, if nothing else. And there really isn't much else. Yeah, so WizKid, a little while ago, you said, I think this is a good point. I really hope games like this and Breath of the Wild... Oh, wait, where am I supposed to be going? I forgot. Where's my marker? Ah, here. It's over there. I think you know where I'm going, if you've played this. So you're saying you hope that open world games like this and Breath of the Wild, maybe this more so than in Zelda, is something like the future of sandboxy kind of open world games. I think I agree. I like this style a lot, where it's very narrative driven, but you can do whatever you want around that narrative. So,
is a pretty pickle.
Let's meet Meredith.
What the devil are you looking at?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm sorry. I'm ruined. Ruined!
How so?
It's a disaster. Who wants to see a woman wrangle wild animals who doesn't have any bloody wild animals?
I'm needing a
America,
few sips of my whiskey for this guy.
To the land of
Oh, sorry.
opportunity, they said.
Lady.
Sod you, Daddy, I said. I'm going to America to make it on the stage. I didn't want to be in the army. Ooh, now look at me. The old git will have a field day.
I didn't really understand any of that.
I had an act. The bravest woman in the world. The animal wrangler. Watch her tame wild beasts.
And you were the woman.
Of course I was the bloody woman. Look at me. It's the stage. Grease paint. Tears. No one wants to see a man wrangling wild animals. And no one wants to see a woman wrangling nothing. Can I borrow your gun? I want to shoot myself. You see, I'm buggered.
Why?
My animals, they escaped. And now
There are some
I'm buggered.
untoward jokes that can be made about that.
Priceless Ranjaniki tiger from the slopes of the Hindu Heights. A fantastic, elusive zebra from the plains of Ongo Bongo by the shores of the Limpopo. And a magnificent lion from the grasslands of Tanganyika.
Yeah, I see your problem. They're pretty hard to come by around here.
Listen, friend, help a fellow out, would you? I'm beyond desperate. If you see any of them, will you bring them back here?
If I see a tiger or a lion or a zebra just roaming around.
Exactly. Well, I believe the zebra's up near Larned Sod. Distinctive creature that he is. I'll make it worth your while.
All right, madam.
It's bloody
Madam.
Margaret, not madam. Margaret. Mistress of fucking danger.
Come on now, boy.
Well, so this is delightfully absurd. Lots of fun. Let's go find his, I think. Let's just say his. Let's go find his zebra with lots of scare quotes. Listen, WizKid, I did not make a trans joke. I only implied one. This entire quest is a trans joke. It's actually some really... Let's just say that this game was made in 2016 through 17, and it could not be in current year due to some of this. This quest really in particular, among a few other things. Yeah. It wouldn't survive. It would not survive the review process. It wouldn't have probably gotten published just due to some of the, especially the later circumstances in this quest in particular, which we'll talk about when we get to it. Because, man, it's, I don't know, dank is probably the best way to describe it. But anyway, while we're on our way to find our, quote, zebra, someone's barn is on, is that on fire? Oh, no, it's just, okay. I thought that was on fire. It's just the lantern. Anyway. But yeah, in any case, right, so I promised to talk about rootless urban parasites. And, of course, I will. So, there is a lot of relationship between a lot of the crazy things going on right now. And the biggest kind of common factor to basically all of the current extreme social problems that we are struggling through, at least in the U.S., can really, I think, be boiled down to the main central factor, which really dictates almost every political issue in the U.S. and has more or less since Jefferson, maybe longer. No, I don't want to shoot it. No, I don't want to shoot it. I want to wrangle it, though. So don't kick me, please. Just gonna grab you. Okay. Return the zebra.
Drops better not rub off on my pants.
I'm just gonna ride. Let's just go. Let's just go. This is ridiculous. Okay, yeah, I know. Hush, Zonky. Incidentally, have you ever seen a Zonky? Anybody actually seen a Zonky? Because they are strange creatures that look basically like this, like not exaggerating at all. They actually do have a bit more of a zebra-like tail with the kind of solid tail that has the tuft at the end kind of thing. They're actually pretty cool. I like them. There is this bizarre little zoo / roadside attraction / mini golf course / tourist trap, very Floridian tourist trap, near our house. That we've been to a few times now. Saoirse loves it because it's bizarre. And they have zonkies because they breed zonkies, half zebra, half donkey. Yeah, Kevin said. WizKid says, I can't believe this came out almost 5 years ago. It feels like it literally just came out. Feels like it literally just came out because the PC version just came out like Christmas time. Wait, what about counterfeit currency as legitimate legal tender, Kevin? Is this a reference to the zonky?
Good grief! You found him! Our zebra!
Well, you can call him that. Although he's as much a zebra as you are a lady animal wrangler.
Oh dear, you're missing the point, aren't you? It's an illusion. A trick of the eye to bamboozle the senses. Confound comprehension.
Hoodwink your audience?
Hoodwink? Our audiences? Dear boy, don't be so dreadfully literal. No one will pay for the truth. They only pay for deception. The allure of the stage, dreams and reality. What is the greater conjuring trick? lassoing some poor beast on the plains of Mumbo Jumbo Land and shipping it here so it can dance the polka, or turning there in the glare of those arc lamps something mundane into something extraordinary. It's the difference between prose and poetry. It's alchemy. We're selling dreams, dear boy.
Well, as long as you don't pay me with tickets to your show.
Yes. Well, it's not everyone's cup of tea.
And speaking of my payment...
Of course. I shall make it worth your while. But, first, we shall need the whole menagerie back before we can think about that. My assistant's gone for the tiger.
Tiger?
Yes. And taken our remaining lion in case it could lend a paw. They're down there on Caliga Way. Please, I hate to ask.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Yeah, WizKid says also, even in 2016, the whole trans issue was a bit touchy. I remember talking to an ex about trans people and how confusing they can be. Well, you can't say that they're confusing. That's hurtful. I'm mostly kidding. In any case, though, right? Very much so. Let's just say I think the slope got slippery in around 2015, 15 or so. That's when I at least started noticing that the world was getting extremely strange. That's I think when the kind of symbolic inversions really started picking up. The whole clown world thing really started to pick up steam in around 2015 or so. So yeah, by 2016, when this game was in production, it came out I think in 17. If I remember. Oh, I can't say slope, right? Naturally, that's racist. Forgot. Darn it. The slippery ramp. There we go. Ramp got slippery. Could say slide. A slip and slide. It's called a slip and slide. I could use I could call it what my 2-year-old daughter calls a slide. She calls it a wee because she says wee when she goes down it. So that works. The slippery wee. Wait, that doesn't sound right, does it? We'll figure something out. Anyway. I think that around, like I say, I think around 2015 is when things really started to accelerate into sort of polar ends of absurdity. You got the populist Trump phenomenon on the right, which, even if you like the guy, you have to admit is absurd. No, not...
Where is she?
I'm assuming you're... Oh, I might be thinking of another term, which might mean that I'm a little bit racist. So let's just drop that and move on. Sorry, WizKid. I was assuming that Kevin was making a joke that he probably was not, and I was going with it, and I not very pleased with myself that that's where my mind went. Oh well.
Hey, mister.
Oh.
Miss.
Howdy, mister.
Did you lose a tiger?
Yeah, you found one?
Nah, I found your caravan down the way. Margaret said that you might need a hand.
Oh, you weren't wrong. That tiger's missing. I sent our best lion out to find him, and now he's missing too. It is a right old predicament.
Your lion from Timbuktu, weren't you?
From Valentine, I think. He might be more of a kind of dog than a lion, but in a certain light, a feller could never tell.
Of course. Which way to go?
Into them shrubs over there.
Okay.
WizKid wants to know, but I ain't saying it.
I'll see if I can find his track.
Okay.
I like my YouTube channel.
That first set of shrubs, that's where I lost sight of him.
Oh my gosh. Just private message him or something. He'll get it. You can private message him here. Might be able to do it on Facebook or something. There we go. I think that's it.
Got the trail.
Oh, blood stain.
Paw prints.
Or scratches? Look like scratches. You can probably message through YouTube also. I think that's a thing you can do.
This dog? There's some pigment here.
How do I put this as delicately and as YouTube friendly as possible? It has to do with eyes, and that's all I can probably say. If it is the racist thing that I think it is, it has to do with eyes.
What's that?
So, and anyway, if we're momentarily done being barely racist, then let's not make it worse. Well, we're ahead, right? But I think I kind of left you guys at a cliffhanger, which I'll have to pick up once I examine this dead lion.
Found your dog. Ex-dog, ex-lion.
Hey, boy! Oh, where's the rest of them?
I think a cougar took him.
That'd be Stripey. And I always thought they got along.
Your tiger is a wild cat?
Uh-huh.
I love her.
What else?
She's wonderful.
Still need it back?
Oh, yes, sir. She's our
Where's the
star
rest of
attraction.
him?
Well, let's hope it wants the other half of its dinner.
The other half? Really?
I'm gonna put him in your wagon. You find somewhere to hide.
Oh. Well, behind that log, then.
Okay? Rubs up. Stay down. She won't be too far away.
I went out to find a tiger,
Cougar, you mean?
and I end up losing a lion.
Yeah, dog.
Ain't having any luck.
Well, if that's what you're dealing with, you didn't have any luck to begin with. Cougars and dogs.
Hey, it ain't what you got in this life. It's what you make of it.
Well, that's very wise of you. Especially when you're lacking zebras and tigers. Hey, keep your head down. It's coming.
Look, I really don't think she'll eat the dog. Like I said, they was friends.
Shut it.
Oh, I guess she's real hungry.
She's feral. I'm locking her in.
Okay. Well, there's no other way this all could have possibly gone.
Sorry, girl. All right. Let's go.
It's good. Honestly, she's innocent GF
Dad, will you?
goals.
And I'll keep an eye on her.
Sure
Oh
thing.
god. She's just whimsical,
Let's get her back
you
to
know.
Mr.
She
Margaret.
really fits the
She's
circus
still eating.
in a not as crazy way, but definitely a crazy way.
Wild creatures turn on each other. Seeming friendly one minute, dinner the next. This
excuse me.
comes easy.
Mister!
Sorry. Oh, morning.
I mean, I
Great.
should know. I've run with a few of them myself.
Is that right?
No, not really. Hey, I realize I ain't properly introduced myself.
Sally Nash.
Arthur Morgan.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Tell me, Miss Nash, how you end up in this racket?
If we was going this slow, we might not have lost those animals to begin with.
Okay, calm down, man. There's a bump.
Guess it's always been my inclination, you know? Wild beasts and the like. I met Mr. Margaret, we got to talking, and you can probably tell, in this field, he's the ace of spades.
He's a card, all right.
It's my modest hope, one day, to be the world's second bravest woman animal wrangler.
I'd say you got that sewn up and then some.
You think? I hope so. Top 5, at least. Depends on how many more fellers throw their hat in the ring.
Maybe one
yeah.
of these days, the best female for the job will actually be a female.
Oh wait, wrong way. Darn
Oh,
it.
I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah, so that's that's the part. That is, I think, the part that would not have possibly flown if this were released any time after 2017.
When the dust was up. Be careful or you might get wrecked too.
okay? You know the only thing to do in a dust storm is wait it out?
Mr. Margaret's a lot of things, but best female navigator ain't one of them.
I imagine you're right about that.
We was tearing around here, looking for any kind of landmark when over we go. Whole caravan toppled. Found each other and some shelter, but when the wind died down, the animals was gone.
And now they're back. Some of them, at least.
Thanks to you.
You would have managed it yourself.
I almost hit a
That's
tree
helped you
again,
along.
which would have been very bad.
If you ever want to get in the sideshow business, I'm sure there'd be a place for a fellow like you.
I'll leave the professional theatrics to better women than me.
There it is, the caravan.
Couldn't miss him if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, WizKid, Arthur is quite the turf.
Sure did, Mr. Margaret.
Jolly good, jolly good.
You know, tarring and feathering a donkey is one thing.
I beg your pardon? It's grease paint, makeup.
But playing dolls dressed up with a wild animal, you're gonna want to be a lot more careful.
Strappy ate King, Mr. Margaret. I saw her do it.
I always thought they got along.
Oh, she liked him just fine. She licked her chops and asked for seconds. Hey, speaking of which, you got any more word on that runaway lion, or are you gonna pay me for these misfits?
Look, I'm well aware that we're not Royal Command performance material. Daddy, you were right, goddammit you! But a cow barn in Rhodes is hardly Drury Bloody Lane.
You got any word on the lion?
Yes, I've got word on the lion. Shit is the word. Someone saw him near Emerald Ranch. As you know, we're lately very short on lions. So, I'd be very grateful. All kinds of grateful.
There's only one kind of grateful I care about.
So long, mister.
That's good. That's
Be a dear
kind.
and fix me a gin.
Okay. Let's go to Emerald Ranch. Find the last lion. Quote, lion. So-called lion. But yeah, Arthur Morgan for gender equality, as WizKid said. Maybe someday the best woman for the job will actually be a woman. And the whole, well, maybe that'll only happen if, maybe that'll happen if more men don't throw their hats in the ring. Remember, that line was written before that became a political issue. Because that became a political issue almost immediately after this game was released. You gotta just love that. It's incredible. But yeah, Arthur Morgan is a turf, apparently. Surprised he didn't get canceled for that. I mean, if they can cancel Rowling for basically the same thing, I mean, they can't cancel a cowboy? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. I'm somewhere in between completely joking and completely not joking, and I'm honestly not sure where on that scale I am. Once again, like I said, the real absurdity of things started quite a bit before this game came out. A lot of this is just a lot of it since then has just been sort of the predictable consequences, you know. WizKid says, honestly, I think it's awesome how they made the characters very progressive, but also at the same time made it fit the setting and make sense. Yeah, very much so. Right. I mean, we have the whole women's suffrage arc coming up, and that really is a big deal in terms of sort of progressivism of the era, and I like how they handle it. That Arthur's just like, all right, I guess I'll deal with this, because he just kind of sees it as no big deal. He doesn't want to get involved, but not because he disagrees. He just doesn't want to get involved because he never wants to get involved in anything that isn't his own survival and money.
Claws? That's enough for me.
What's the ruckus, boys?
Get back! We got a cursed creature in here.
Oh, yeah?
It's as big as a mule and as mean as a hellcat.
It looks like a lion to me.
That's a dog in there.
Dog?
Now, if you'll excuse me. Step aside.
What?
I said step aside.
Alright, let's go get the lion. I mean, okay, Kevin. Kevin punched the women's suffrage lady.
Didn't look like no dog.
The one in Saint Denis, I will admit, was very
Come here,
annoying.
boy. Let's go.
Oh. Huh. That's a weird dog.
Look what you done!
Oh,
Look what
uh-oh.
you done!
Son of a bitch.
Let's
I'll
do,
take care of this.
And let's do that. Oh, a dead cow. Let's have a bite to eat first. Not that. Definitely the gun. The shotgun. Alright, let's see. What possibly could this lion be? Let's see.
Sweet mother. Easy, boy. Easy. Shit!
What? I don't know what just happened there. Let's try that again. WizKid says kind of the difference between true feminists and SJWs. Wait, no! What? No! I didn't have a gun! What in the world? Okay, that's not right. I can fix this. Oh, the lion escaped. That's why I failed the mission. Not because my throat was torn open. No, it wasn't that. It was definitely the lion escaping. Okay. Well, I got it. Let's switch rounds. Okay.
Woo, he got it! He shot the thing! Is it dead? I pray that thing's a goner.
Yeah, I agree, WizKid. Makes me sad that we have to kill the lion. Yeah, me too. That was the only animal that was actually an exotic animal brought across the seas and all that stuff. You know, you would think. Wait, can I also skin it? That would be really something, but no, I
I've
can't.
never
Just
seen
the
one of
paw.
those before, and I hope I don't again.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just how things are, I guess. Alright.
Yeah, let's stop by the fence and grab this lion's paw trinket while we're here. See if we can just go construct that. Is he here? He isn't even here. Oh, you gotta be here at night or something? Whatever. Alright, another time. There's other fences as well. So that was a mess. Let's go finish up the mess and talk to Mr. Margaret. Yeah. Yeah, I do think this was very, in a sense, ahead of its time, because it picked out this kind of trend and made fun of it before it was there to make fun of. And I think that's the only way it got away with being able to make fun of something that became such a serious political issue, is that it caught the issue before it became a big deal, and it made fun of it before it became a controversy. Because if this game had come out with this quest series and those jokes there, if this had come out in 2019 or 2020, especially if it had come out in like 2018 when this was a really big deal, there's no way it would have gotten torn to pieces.
Yeah.
But now, no one really thinks of it because, well, it was before that particular issue came up, right? But it's still a good joke, right? Because, you know, it's the tendency of how things will inevitably go when women-only spaces are enterable by men, right? When the world's bravest woman animal wrangler can be a man, it's probably going to be, if only because it's a novelty. Because look at this flamboyant, crazy person.
Odysseus returns. Sally, get the cages ready.
Yes, sir, Mr. Margaret, right away.
Man-eating lion. You didn't think that it might be useful for me to know that this time the animal was actually real, you moron?
Steady on. I clearly stated that we were looking
You
for...
haven't clearly stated anything in all the time I've known you. That could have been a goose for all I
A
know.
goose will hardly get them to their feet for the curtain call. Bring on the king of the beasts, on the other hand, and they feel the roar. And they, well, look about as surprised as you do. What have you done with him, if you don't mind me asking?
I killed him. He's dead.
Bloody hell! This is Ramo, boy.
Well, it was him or me. Now, pay me.
Yes, of course, of course. I have just the thing. And what a treasure it is! You're a lucky man, sir. Very lucky man. From the mines of El Dorado, as green as the rainforest, as clear as the Amazon, and as dear as all the gold in the Andes. One man's labor is but a trifle compared to this jewel's true value. Wait! I shouldn't. What would Daddy say?
Your daddy ain't here, and we had a deal.
Yes, of course. A promise is a promise.
What would Daddy say
Sally,
to
get the
literally
wagons
anything
moving.
that's going
And
on
you're
right
waiting
now?
for the lion?
He's in the great hunting ground in the sky. Good day, sir, and thank you. But we really must be getting along.
Yeah, I won't keep you. So long.
So long, Mr. Morgan. Next time you see me, I'll be topping the bill, I promise. Or at least I'll be on the bill.
All in good time, my dear.
That means he is never putting her on the bill. Anyway, yeah, there is there's a very fundamental conflict, I think, between transgender ideology, broadly speaking, and feminism, also pretty broadly speaking. They wind up consuming each other in just the way that WizKid pointed out, right? You can tell someone, to use your example, you said, you can tell someone you're not a man, somehow that's offensive, to the people who go on and on about feminism and women's rights. It's absurd. It is. I mean, right, it's absurd in the sense of it that it is, it effectively embodies contradiction, right? And so it's absurd in the very strict logical sense, right? Because you want to, promote women's rights, but you have a significant amount of trouble defining what qualifies as a woman, right? And again, there are theoretical problems with the most radical views of gender ideology, very broadly, with their definitional problems, like by what standard do you define a woman, and you can say, someone who identifies as a woman, that sort of thing, but then that becomes circular, and then it's merely a social category, but then it isn't even a social category. The social categories are socially negotiated, and there's no negotiation possible, right? You spiral down the hole. And that's... I think I've mentioned this on stream before, about Franz Kafka's The Trial. And I talked about it when I was talking about Patreon. Maybe this was last week. It might have been while we were playing Mass Effect last week, because I was talking about Patreon's arbitrary rules and such. If you have absurdly contradictory categorizations, that's great in terms of social power, because it means you can claim just about anything, and it'll be consistent with your ideology, because your ideology is it has contradictions within it, so it can be consistent with everything, because it's ultimately consistent with nothing. That's the big the strength of absurdist views like this. Yeah. So, there's I guess you could say that there is a kind of there's a kind of ideological strength to it, or maybe a political strength to it, even if there are obvious philosophical weaknesses. Let's see what we need to do here at the Grays. I still need to say what I think is the single biggest source of conflict in American politics. But
sheriff's orders. You wanted me to have a word with some folk on the property. I'm recently deputized, you see.
Deputized? And I suppose Lee was drunk when he did it? Look, you can come in, but you ain't talking with me.
Obliged.
Okay. Alright, so WizKid says that the problem really is that it's people trying to stratify and make into a spectrum the fundamentally dualistic. I don't know if that's the fundamental problem. I mean, that's a problem, right? I think the more fundamental problem is it's not the fundamental dualism, it's the fundamental essentialism that gets rejected, right? That there is an essence to what it is for someone to be a man or someone to be a woman, and once you dispense with that, things start spinning out of control, I guess you could say. Things start getting self-contradictory and contradictory with each other and all of that. Right? So there's these... That is, I think, in large part what brings about all of these sort of pseudo-political problems. Right? Political, at least, in the sense...
All right, there. You someone who could tell me about this place?
Well, the wages are crap, and the conditions are worse. Try Bo Gray. Saw him over by the Dovecote there. It's his family own the place.
All right, let's go see Bo. But yeah, I think that, like I said, I think the big problem is the rejection of clear definitions. And especially clear and non-circular definitions. I think that's the key issue. And in doing so, what you wind up with is a kind of floatiness in one's definitions. Right, the definitions can mean whatever they need to mean at any given moment, and that gives all of these problems their real confusion that comes with them. Kevin says identity is proposed based on perception, not grounded in biology. Yeah, and I mean biology, so long as you mean that broadly enough. Right? So long as by biology you don't simply mean our animalistic nature, but you include our mental aspects, right, to us as well, which I would include as being a fundamental and important part of identity. But that cannot be, right, the different parts of us cannot be naturally opposed to one another, right? You can't have a psychological identity which is fundamentally opposed to one's, well, let's just say sexual identity, because it's a particular part of our biology. So, right, they can't be opposed like that and still be the same organism without absurdity, unless you decide that one part or the other is completely essential and the other part is completely accidental. And I think, again, this is a big problem where I'm just going to wander around a little bit. I'm going to walk a bit while I talk about this, because this is a big topic. It's a confusion that I think is very, very common in the sort of contemporary postmodernism, broadly speaking, and it's a confusion of essence and accidents, or substance and accidents. Right? So we have accidental qualities like, I have blonde hair and I have a beard. But if those changed, I would still be me, right? But I also have essential qualities, like I am a human being and I am a male human being. Like, those are essential to me. If they were different, I would be a different person. Right? They're fundamental to my identity. And accidental qualities are not. And what we have is a confusion of essential and accidental qualities. So we think of thoughts, emotions, perceptions, particularly self-perceptions, as being essential to us. Right? And you can honestly kind of trace this back to Locke, if you really want to try to the whole Locke's philosophical psychology of there being no substance. The substance is simply generic and everything is accidents, which is icky. It's the worst way of describing a philosophical theory ever, but it works. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of modernist psychology of that era. Anyway, my point, though, is that a lot of the kind of postmodernism confuses essence and accidents, substance and accidents. And it's something like... you see this very commonly in, right, when you criticize or when you, even if you just outrightly dismiss someone's claimed identity or someone's lived experience, often the response you'll get is, you're denying my existence. Or you're, what's the term? It's not denying. They have some kind of more histrionic term for it. Erasing my existence even, right? And that would be the case if they were denying that you exist qua person, right? If you were denying their personhood, then yeah, you might be denying their existence because that's an essential property. But not if you're just denying an accidental quality, right? That's like if I were to call Eddie tall. Like, I happen to know he's not particularly, right? Eddie's not particularly tall. I am. I'm very tall. Very, very tall person. You wouldn't know this. I've only appeared in videos sitting or from a low angle, but trust me, I'm very tall. But if I were short, I would still be me. If somebody called me short, they wouldn't be erasing my existence. If I called Eddie tall, I wouldn't be erasing his existence. I would just be mistaken about something, right? It's really that simple. Similarly, if I were to call myself a dark of hair, right, I wouldn't be erasing my existence as a blonde. All I'd be doing is being wrong about something. Similarly, if I said Eddie is blonde, right, I'm not denying your existence. I'm just getting something wrong about your physical appearance. Right. Oh yeah, denying your lived experience is another one. That's a bit of a separate issue, and that kind of comes down to empiricism being way too heavily trusted, but that is another element to this, and it's very closely related. I did skip over something you said, though. You said they don't understand how to integrate their animus into their psyche, and it causes awful dissonance. And identity confusion, at least from a Jungian perspective. I don't know enough about Jungian animus theory, but that does strike me as correct, because I know it has a lot to do with the integration of the feminine, the anima being the feminine aspects of the male, and the animus being the masculine aspects of the female, and they can't separate that out into a psychological aspect, but rather it becomes an identity, it becomes the self. That's an issue. Right? So yeah, psychologically speaking, I think you're probably onto it, right? If Kylie were here, she would probably be able to expand on this somewhat more. I don't actually know how much she knows about Jung. I know she has studied quite a bit of psychology, so maybe we'll hear about this later. And this, I'm sure, will come up later. It's a very fascinating topic. But I think, yeah, this essence and accidents confusion is, I think, the biggest problem in this entire ideology, really. And it really just comes down to the not even postmodern, the modern denial of essence, of essences, of essential forms. And it goes way back to, if you want to be uncharitable to the poor guy, it goes back to Occam, but more realistically, it goes to Hume, because everything wrong is traceable to Hume. I don't like Hume. But yeah, let's talk to Bo, and then we'll go on to talk about either this some more, or I still want to talk about what I think is the fundamental issue at the core of every political disagreement, at least in the United States, going back at least to Jefferson. So we'll get to that eventually.
Huh. I'll see you at the sheriff's office.
Excuse me, friend.
We friends?
Not yet, but he is hoping.
I guess.
We don't get a lot of traveling men here, and suddenly there's a whole phalanx of mysterious but strangely helpful Yankees about the place.
Is there?
What are you doing here?
I was just looking for work.
Well, looking for something. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me.
What secret?
I got a secret of my own.
Are you secretly normal?
Excuse me?
Never mind.
The thing is, I don't care if you kill the whole lot of us, and the Braithwaites.
I don't want to kill anyone.
I love her, you know.
Love who?
Penelope. But it's impossible.
Well, love tends to be complicated.
She's a Braithwaite. I'm Beau Gray, son of Tavish Gray, nephew of Lee Gray, the sheriff, grandson of old Murdo Gray. We Grays have been loyal to the state and murderous to the Braithwaites for so long now, no one can even quite explain why. Beyond blind loyalty and stupidity, I'm supposed to be loyal to some nonsense while she's amazing. She's like a woman from the future. She's like tomorrow, if tomorrow turns out fine.
Well, I'm sorry for your predicament.
Would you help?
I don't want to get involved. Gang feuds seems unseemly.
See, that's the smart
I've got
outlook.
money. We Grays, we've always got money. No brains, mind, but money.
Well, in that case...
I know she loves to sit out in the gazebo on the edge of the Braithwaite property. Take her this letter and this bracelet, please. Oh, look out for their guards. They're worse with strangers than ours are.
Well, okay. Yeah, Jung is certainly interesting. It's just like I said, I don't know a ton about Jung. I haven't actually read Jung. I've only really read secondary source literature and stuff, which is not quite enough to get a solid grasp on a thinker that complex. But I do know at least a little bit, so I can at least hold an intelligent conversation with somebody who does know what they're talking about. And that's really the goal, I think.
I should really appreciate you taking those to her.
It's worth noting that is always, I always mention that is the goal of most of my, particularly my gen ed classes. It's not to make you an expert, because I won't. It's not going to happen. It's, my goal is always to get you to the point where you can hold an intelligent conversation with an expert. Right, and you know what kind of questions to ask and that sort of thing. Particularly in philosophy of religion, because it is a very broad, very survey kind of course. It's not like you're gonna understand every topic within the philosophy of religion in one semester of an intro course. It's not gonna happen. So instead, my goal is always that. Well, I think it's really embodied quite well in my in the final project, which is an interview with an expert in the field. So a scholar or a clergy member or what have you, somebody who knows what they're talking about with respect to religion. And my goal is to see if you can hold an intelligent conversation about complex topics. Oh, yeah, WizKid says that he can point me to a great YouTuber who's pretty well versed in Jung. Yeah, please do. Probably, I mean, you can put it in the chat, but that will get lost. I guarantee it. I will not come back to see it. Send me a message. That way I will definitely see it. And I will be able to have a good look at it and take a look and take my time. I'm just gonna sneak snunk on through here, hopefully. It says, oh, you mean you actually teach your students how to think? Shocking. It's almost like you have integrity as an educator. Oh, come on. But yes, I do. At least I try to. Okay, listen. I will shoot you if I need to. Right, let me get out a rifle. And a bow with improved arrows. If I gotta kill some folks, I'll kill some folks. It's fine. I really don't care. Especially if they start charging at me, that kind of thing. But yeah, my goal in teaching is never really to even give students a solid grasp of the entire field. Because even that's kind of impossible. It's really just to get them to know how to ask the right questions when they encounter the right people, you know? Alright, if I go faster. Oh my gosh, the music gets faster if I start running. That's amazing. That's incredible. Gotta love that. Anyway. Is that a guard? Yeah, okay. Let's handle this. Oh! I wasn't supposed to do that. I didn't know that. I thought I could take him out. I'm thinking this is Russian stealth. Not cowboy stealth. Yeah, whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I don't actually need my bow in that case. Whatever. Alright. Moving on. Moving right along. Turn around, you can keep going. There we go. That'll work. Go around this way. Okay, no. Worth a try. Okay, keep moving. Deliver the love letter with a vengeance. Absolutely. I mean, that's literally what everyone else would do, so, you know. Not that out of place. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, WizKid says, right. It's the, oh, this is going to be sketchy. It's the mark of a true teacher that they instruct almost on the philosophy of knowledge acquisition rather than lead the student to any obvious conclusion. Maybe. There are obvious conclusions to be reached. So there is actual content. It's just that is a... those are more of like examples. The particular content's more like examples than anything else.
I've got a letter for you.
Oh.
And a gift.
A letter and a gift. Well, we don't even know each other.
Well, it's not from me. It's from,
From Bo. Oh, he is so...
Strange?
Yes, he's a little strange, but also so human. The rest of our families are stuck in the Dark Ages, or, well, I don't know, cave people, perhaps. Bo's different, but if they find out, they'll kill him and send me to live someplace awful like Ohio. Have you ever been to Ohio,
no.
sir?
No.
Well, neither have I, but my uncle has a factory there. He was sort of the black sheep on account of having left, but now they tolerate him because he's a vicious snob. Families are there's something else. You got a family, sir?
No, not really.
Well, they tolerate him because of the money. But me, with my ideas above my station, they can't stand.
That sounds pretty complicated. I don't know quite what to say.
Well, nothing to say, except I hope they all rot. I don't, well, maybe a bit. But here, if you see Bo again, will you give this to him?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna go steal a boat. Actually, I'm probably just gonna rob this workshop blind first. Oh, hey. Where's my premium? There we go. Premium cigarettes. Throw these out. WizKid says, I guess I just think that's more important a student learn how to think for themselves, rather than whatever their professors profess to learn, or I guess maybe even profess to teach. Yeah, I think that's fair. Because if you can... Oh, gun oil. Do I need to polish any of my guns? Yes, I do. Let's do it. Come on. It's a very nice gun. I mean, I wouldn't discount, you know, the knowledge and the usefulness of that knowledge that you can get from professors. That's great. I've learned a lot from a lot of my very good teachers. But at the same time, I think you are, to a large extent, correct, right? The biggest thing I've learned from most of my teachers is how to learn. And that's what I've learned from the best of my teachers. And once you learn how to learn, there's a lot you can learn on your own. It's one of those where it's kind of cliche, and I don't actually know where this comes from, but you know, the goal of the teacher is to make himself unnecessary for the student. Okay, let's go. Can I just take... No, I can't. What? Stop. Back in there. Can I take this boat? I'm gonna steal it. Let's go. Stop. I'll let you go that way. Anyway, so the thing I've been waiting and trying to talk about now for, what, the whole night? Eat some beef. What I've been trying to talk about basically the whole night, what I've been kind of getting distracted from, is the idea that I think basically every political conflict... Oh yeah, actually, before I start that, WizKid says, it's like what Bruce Lee used to say about martial arts, use what works, forget anything that doesn't have value. That is basically that's what I say when I use examples. And you'll find me saying that in all sorts of, in a bunch of my videos as well. Oh, hey, bank robbery. Do I want to do that? No, I don't. Not yet. I want to go back to the Gray Mansion first. Come on, horse. Come on. But yeah, I always say that. Like, if my example works, if it helps you understand something, by all means, use it. If it doesn't help at all, if the example makes no sense to you, completely forget I even said it. Sorry for wasting your time, but I'd rather have wasted your time than gotten you more confused. You know, and that actually happens all the time, right? It's relatively common that I say something that doesn't make any sense to somebody. There. Nah, you're not very good help. All right. But yeah, that happens all the time. Like, something I say doesn't make sense to somebody in their, given their experience or in their particular context or given the way that they understand things or how they learn or whatever, right? And if that's the case, then fine. They can feel free to completely drop it. So long as I get the point across somehow, I'm happy to use more analogies than I need to, use more examples and use more techniques than I need to. Right, so what I think is fundamentally behind every conflict in American politics, going back from before the Revolutionary War, is, I think, the conflict between rural and urban cultures. It's a culture conflict between urban and rural. That might seem obvious because it's basically all I've talked about on this stream, and I've probably said it to all of you in particular before, if I had to guess. Those of you guys who are with me live. But I really do think that it is the fundamental conflict in, at least in American politics. And part of the way you can see this is that just about any political issue, especially any kind of red-blue divide map that you see, is almost always a population density chart. Almost always it maps perfectly well onto population density. You can see this on elections. So you can look at the Electoral College, it's population density. You can look at polling on any very specific issue, it's usually population density, with a few minor exceptions. What in the world?
Don't run much, huh? Go drink some moonshine, you damn louse! Get back here!
Appreciate the help, mister. We'll take it from here.
Can't just let people trespass on our property, especially the breakaway.
Well, interesting. Kevin says I'm obsessed. Yes, I'm rather obsessed when it comes to.
Oh, please!
I'm rather obsessed when it comes to urban versus rural cultural disputes, and I've gradually been taking more and more of a side on these things, as you know from earlier on, and as you know from me as a human being. I'm very much gradually becoming more and more rural in my sensibilities. So yeah, there's a lot to that, but I do think that this is really fundamental to basically every political conflict in the U.S., going back to the conflict between Hamilton and Jefferson, very much so, and then going back to just about any other major political conflict that you see, going back as far as you want to go back in the U.S., it's urban versus rural. The cities in the South during the Civil War were far more prone to sort of Union sympathies. The rural areas up in the North were very prone to Confederate sympathies. They were far less likely to have conscripts come from there, that sort of thing. Basically, any issue today as well, you see the same thing. And it's always a matter of urban versus rural, and so you have these two very different cultures. And of course, you also have regional divides and all that sort of thing. But that is, I think, a lot less of a significant issue compared to urban versus rural. And I think you see that here. And like I was saying, Dutch and the gang they're not urban, they are northern. And they see the folks down south in this small little town as country yokels who know nothing, right? And they're especially Dutch, is very dismissive of them for that, and thinks that they're a bunch of idiots. Right. Maybe some of them are idiots, fine. The sheriff does seem to be a bit of a drunk, but still, that's not really the point. And the point is how dismissive he is of it, and how much, during this chapter, Dutch's attitude reminds me of the folks who say things like flyover states, you know? That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of attitude that Dutch is starting to have. So the weird symbolic inversion is that Dutch, of all people, is starting to represent the center as opposed to the margin at this point. And had a sip of water. And I think the big thing about this, part of the big deal, is that tendency is what prevents him from setting down roots here in Rhodes. WizKid says, before I talk to Bo, WizKid says, I agree. I think the fact that the cities are a necessary part of a functional society really strains the founder's vision of how you keep a republic from tearing itself apart. Yes, but partially. So long as you have sufficient subsidiarity, it shouldn't matter. The trouble is that urbanites tend to be, call it culturally imperialistic. They want to exert control further and further out, just by their sort of their cultural sensibilities. Right? That's kind of what they want to do. That's their thing. And of course, rural folks don't want that. They want the opposite of that. They want to be left alone. They don't want to extend out. They want to just sit there with their small community and have a tight-knit, close community that isn't infringed upon from outside. It's the sort of subsidiarity versus solidarity question when those are opposed. It's the question of homogeneity versus cosmopolitanism as well. And I think it's that we see Dutch having a big problem with, is that he is this kind of, at least by cultural history and by nature even, he's a kind of cosmopolitan, kind of urbanite, and certainly a kind of utopian. All cult leader sorts are pretty utopian. So he really is very much on the side of wanting to kind of expand his way of thinking outwards, and he can't see himself settling into a little community like Rhodes when there's so much about it that he doesn't agree with, or at least that he doesn't like. So he really can't see himself doing that, and he can't bring his gang along into something that he doesn't like, because the gang he sees as kind of an extension of himself. And again, that kind of personality type wants to constantly expand itself. Right? He expands himself into the gang, and he wants to expand himself into Tahiti. And he always talks about, and so it's this constant kind of growth, and he can't bring himself to mesh himself into a community that he doesn't fully like, doesn't fully agree with, like Rhodes. It's the kind of thing where he can't, to put it in terms of, rootless urban parasites, he can't bring himself to set down roots. And he can't integrate himself into something, because that would mean tying himself down to it. But that also means that it's not just tying himself down to it, but that means it means that it has a measure of influence over him, which he can't control. And he can't have that. He wants to be in control. He's that kind of particular... He has that kind of particularly urban mentality, if you want to put it that way. So let's talk to Beau. Let's do some stuff for him. I think this is the suffragettes thing. And then we'll pick it up from there, because I have a lot more to say about this, and I have a lot more to rant about in terms of contemporary politics, which... Hooray!
You got my money?
Sure. Did she give anything? For me?
Yes.
Might I have it?
Sure. But it'll cost you. I can't be bothered. Here, take it.
Oh, thank you, Arthur. Thank you. My God. What a woman. This'll get her killed for sure.
What?
Women's suffrage. Around here, they don't even like men voting. They'd bring back the monarchy given half the chance. Progress is a dirty word in these parts. Unlike incest.
Excuse me?
I don't want to marry my cousin Matilda.
Ooh.
I want to marry
Kevin's
Penelope.
getting chicken and dumplings. Very nice.
But they'll kill her at one of those rallies they're holding. They've done it before. Mister, you gotta help.
No, I'm afraid I don't want no part of it.
I'll pay. My family, we've still got some money.
Fine. Just no more running around with letters.
Thank you. Come on. We better get going.
All right.
Mount up, all right.
Let's go be suffragettes.
Come on! Come on! Yeah! We'll go
Oh,
down
hey,
the
we have
road
matching
and take the
horses. That's
road to
nice.
town.
All right, let's ride along.
Easy, boy. Calm down.
Yeah.
I can't be calm.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we don't get there in time, my true love may be shot.
If she wants to rally, you gotta let her rally.
Well, good as the cause is, I can't let her become a martyr to it. I want to marry a flesh and blood woman, not a statue in her honor.
I'm sure they know what they're doing.
There they are.
Beau, what are you doing here?
I cannot let you go through with this. You'll be killed.
I'm prepared to die for the cause, Beau. You know that.
Do something, please.
Do what? Fight this mob?
We must begin.
They'd eat me alive.
This is no laughing matter, sir. They need protecting from certain elements. Mostly my family. Penelope, I beg you.
I'll tell you what. Your friend here can drive the wagon for us. It'll allow us to shout all the louder. Hooray!
Sure.
Miss Calhoun.
Well, all right.
Miss Calhoun. My friend here says he can drive the wagon.
Well, Olive Calhoun. Normally I like to drive myself, but today I feel like a man joining us sends the right message.
Well, I ain't never been in a protest march before, madam.
Well, just treat us like the sheep, and the folks attacking us like the wolves, and I'm sure you'll feel right at home. Shall we go? All right, ladies. We know our song is a good one, and we know our cause is a pure one.
Yes, ma'am.
Let liberty reign! We're mothers, wives, housekeepers, and daughters. We cook the food and we fetch the water.
Now. Take us down Main Street, right through town to the steps of the Bank of Rhodes, Mr. What was your name?
Arthur Morgan.
Very good, Mr. Morgan.
I don't know why he's giving his real name
too
here,
slow.
but
We need them to hear our voice.
Well, they'll hear it all right.
like I thought he was going by Arthur Callahan in Rhodes, but
Very
whatever.
good, very good. Mr. Morgan, are you an old friend of the movement?
I'm just a driver, Mrs. Calhoun, and maybe a shotgun messenger if it comes to it. I hope it won't.
Well, our message will be delivered peaceably, Mr. Morgan. You can keep your shotgun to yourself. Stay on Main Street. It's a left up here, Mr. Morgan. Look at these people. It's about to get exciting. I can feel it.
I really hope it's not to get excited.
Good day, Sheriff. I trust you'll make sure it's a peaceful assembly.
You damn asshole!
Oh, do give it a rest, you sorry fool. Mr. Morgan, I give you the male of the species.
That's a pretty dumb specimen, I grant it.
Almost there. Take us just a little further, please. Those are the steps, Mr. Morgan. Stop in front there, and then all you need to do is listen. This spot is fine, sir.
Ladies, get down!
Come on! Go home! Shut your mouth! What the hell is going on? Here! Oh my God! Shit! Ain't causing all this trouble. You don't even know what's going
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great day for all of us. For today is the day we begin to live as equals. Yes, equal, sir. Fair and equal.
This is unnatural! This is nonsense!
Fair, equal, and free, just as the Founding Fathers intended.
Founding fathers, not founding mothers, you silly old goat!
His philosophy dependent on biology.
What the hell you doing here, boy?
Keep your voice down. I'm trying to listen to the speech.
Hello, darling cousin. Don't you ever speak to me like that.
What are you doing here?
Listening, I suppose.
Go help Bo. His cousin is a moron. And stop them from ruining the speech.
There we go.
You need to learn yourself some manners, cousin. Haven't you got anything better to do? Oh, you always was.
Bo, weren't we just leaving?
Who the hell is this?
Follow me, Ronnie.
What? You'll hit me?
Come on.
Sir, can you not see how idiotic you are?
Oh,
Come on.
here we go.
Let's go. Quick now.
We are all Americans.
We gotta go before they think twice. Oh, Lord. Follow me. I know a place. It's an old battlefield no one goes to.
Well, okay. Yeah, I was talking about the funny about this. I was talking about the bit of first of all, we were mentioning
You don't
earlier
want to go
that
back and hear the speeches?
she
I ain't voted before, but kind of getting hot for voting rights.
I don't know whether to take you seriously, Mr. Morgan. My cousins are my primary concern right now. If everyone knows about Penelope and me...
Everyone knows about Penelope and you. I know about Penelope and you, and I've been here all of 10 minutes. Sooner it's out, sooner it's resolved.
The sooner it's dealt
Honestly,
with...
that's a good idea.
We're dealt with. Our families, the Grays and the Braithwaites, we bury our secrets, and we bury them deep.
Your secrets and your treasure.
You know, Catherine Braithwaite's got a daughter. No one's seen her in years. She weren't right, you know, and Penelope said...
I ain't heard about daughters. I heard about gold.
But Yankee Gold? I fear that's just a story, Mr. Morgan. But I don't know. This is awful!
Nobody died. Ain't that awful?
My cousins are vindictive bastards. My brothers are vindictive bastards. My cousins are worse.
They started it.
I know, but...
You should leave.
I will, as soon as I have enough money. When my family... We have money, but I don't.
Is your family very rich?
Yes, well, I believe so. But, they keep me out of the discussions. I have more of a... artistic temperament, so...
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yes. Oh, you made a joke. I really love her. I do.
Well, stick around. Maybe you can die for her as well.
I thought you were trying to make me feel better.
Look, I gotta go.
Me too. Oh, damn! I'm gonna be late. My uncle is quite as bad as you would imagine. Here, your payment. Thank you. Excuse me.
Yeah, so we mentioned how annoying the lady from Saint Denis was. I had forgotten that was her in with leading rally. I think it's a little bit fascinating that she is, first of all, that she is the one who is who's in charge of all this. What is this? Ooh, Albert Mason. Should I go all the way over there? That's pretty far. Time's it's 11. Yeah. Yeah, I got time for it. Let's go. Let's head up that way. So, anyway, what I was saying. I think it's particularly interesting that that Olive there, the leader of the movement we have, is the one who's from not just out of town, but she's from Saint Denis. Saint Denis, which we will eventually see in the game. If you, I'm reminded especially of the little intro scene when you first get there, and it is this. It's this vision that every rural guy or gal sees of the big city. It is the pinnacle of urban, and everything bad about being urban as well, especially. And so it's another example, I think. Penelope's Braithwaite. Oh, okay. Well, fine. Okay, well, this is interesting. Is that it? I think that's it. Alright. Sorry, WizKid. I'm not sure why. Looks to be okay on my end, but... usually when that happens, usually when you get interruptions like that, I usually say, I usually recommend refreshing it. That usually does the trick. Otherwise, Kevin has tried watching it at a... putting it on a delay for a few seconds. That can help as well. So basically, you're just watching the rerun of it a few seconds before, a few seconds afterhand, and that can work. So fiddle with it a few ways that way. It did look like I dropped a few frames in there in the middle there, so in some of the fighting. So it is possible part of it was on my end. So give it a second, see what happens. All else fails, feel free to refresh. Feel free to listen back a minute or so, whatever you need to do. Anyway, So what I was saying, Olive there, the this suffragette from Saint Denis. It is particularly interesting that she is from Saint Denis. Not only, like I said, out of town, but from the what would you call it? The pinnacle of urban, the most urban part of Red Dead, right? Which is seen as very alien.
Let's go, boy.
Very alien to Arthur and folks. Right? Because it's so alien like that. Oh, you're a minute behind. Well, that might help or might hurt. Not sure. Let's see if I can just... Oops. Not quite what I intended, but okay. Trying to dodge between them. In any case, right, so it's this tendency I was talking about of urbanites, of people who are urban by temperament, by culture, to expand outwards, culturally speaking, and try and make the outside, make the margin like the center.
You're okay, boy.
Eliminate any kind of oddness, anything that is not like us, where us is the proper city folk, the way things ought to be, the way things are, and the way things ought to be, and all that.
How you doing, boy?
What's all this thing? Who's this fella?
I don't intend to share this here camp with you. Get.
Okay.
All right, leave now. That's not a suggestion.
Not what I meant,
I ain't
but
here
okay.
to cause trouble.
Anyway, let's move on. But yeah, it's this tendency I was talking about, right? Of urban folks, right? People who have this kind of urban cultural sensibility to impress upon the more rural element. And we can see it, right? And this is, I think, a great example of that kind of thing being a problem.
Hey,
It's all good. Calm down.
Sorry. Now they're just a camp. Keep looking for campfires just in case it's an event or something. Anyway. But yeah, I do think that is there's a major element of that urban colonization, if you want. WizKid says, normally I comment with my phone and listen with my PC. Oh, that's a good idea. But my computer can't use the internet right now, so I'm stuck using my phone. Ah, okay. That explains some things. Gotcha. Incidentally, I probably should chat with you at some point about D&D tomorrow, assuming that you're still having internet problems. And if you're not going to be able to, then that's no big deal. But I can either run your character for you, or we can come up with some excuse for Ambrose to be off doing something or something. But yeah, I'll talk to you about it at some point, unless you want to just take up chat space with it. It's fine. But anyway. But if not, I'll message you after the stream or something like that. Maybe tomorrow. Either way, yeah. This, like I was saying, this kind of urban impulse to colonize the rural, or even we might just say the center's tendency to conquer and to colonize the margin. Another great, albeit absurd, example of this, that again I'll refer back to Jonathan Peugeot's video I've linked a million times on Shrek, is Prince Farquaad doing exactly that to the swamp and to all of the fairy tale creatures, trying to make everything like he wants it to be, everything just like everything perfectly is in Duloc and all of that.
You're okay, boy.
Oh, he's up there. Okay. But yeah, I do think that that's a perfect example of the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Right? This kind of the center, the very civilized and urbanite center expanding itself out into the margins. And of course, not being able to see what is different and unique about what's at the margin. And not being able to see it as different, but just seeing it as improperly us.
Mr. Morgan. You want to be careful up here. Land is real treacherous.
Sure.
Real treacherous. I've been here before.
Have you?
Yes. Funny how things turn out. Never quite how you expect, is it?
No, I don't suppose it is.
What you shooting?
Eagles. You know, the images, they really are beautiful. All thanks to you. I'd be some poor creature's bad meal by now, many times over, but for you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Please, step away from the cliff edge.
I'm trying to get an eagle.
Yeah, they're beautiful. But unlike you, they can fly.
Too true. You really must think I'm a buffoon, don't you? You think I'm such a dimwit I'd just slip off the edge of a cliff?
No, but, well, maybe a little.
Please, sir. I'm dense, but not that dense. This area is quite safe. Quite. Oh!
Ah! Damn!
You're right. I am that much of a buffoon. Give me a hand, please. Put me out of my misery.
Come here.
Oh, dear. Oh, thank you. You know what? Bugger the eagles, I'm going home.
You know, so Kevin, you
really
get out of my Duloc.
Thanks to you. And somehow, I haven't quite broken my neck.
You take care.
And you too, sir. Sorry for all the trouble. Oh.
We didn't need to do much to help him there, just make sure he doesn't die. Alright, so what's next? Anything in Valentine? I don't think so. Emerald Ranch? Nope. What's Abigail have to say for us? Just says, Abigail needs to speak with you. Advertising New American Art. Interesting. You know what? Let's rob a bank, and then that'll be it for tonight. That'll do. Because that'll probably take us through the next 45 minutes or so. So that'll be a little while. Let's go. Anyway. So, how... I think the last part, what I was saying. Right? This idea that I think the biggest difference is that it's this lack of understanding between urban and rural mentalities, or the margin and the center in general. What? No.
Hey there.
It's kind of lack of understanding each other, and that's, I think, more of a problem for urbanites, or for the center than it is for the margin, because the margin doesn't try to control the center. That's the whole point of being the margin. Right? WizKid says, what you're saying is Shrek is the country folk hero we need. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, it's Jonathan Peugeot, and it's something like the symbolism of Shrek and the Baki. Oh, hey, it's this guy. Shooting contest. Sounds good.
Hey, you! Are you gonna
give
me the chance to redeem myself, or
he's
what?
blue. Actually, no. I'm gonna use my pistol for
I
this.
know I got you beat this time. Let's put some money on it, huh? What do you say?
Fine by me, friend. Fine by me.
Good. Okay, let's do this. You know how this goes. The one who shoots the most bottles wins. Just draw your gun and aim when you're ready. All right? Shoot!
Is there more?
Man.
Where's the more? Darn it.
Yes! That's how you
What?
do it.
I didn't see them.
No shot more proud, that's for sure.
Ah, well, not your round. I bet you can do better. Raise the stakes, huh?
All right, let's try again.
All right, let's do it.
Aha, that's a good call, amigo. Just like before, mi amigo. You shoot 4 birds out of the sky before me, you win. Stand near me, and as soon as they come out, it's anyone's shot. Be patient. Ah, there they go. Shoot! Oh, man. Stupid,
There we go.
Stupid. Oh, well. You know how to shoot, okay?
So he took
Here
out
it
one of the
is,
ones
okay?
that I was shooting, which is
None of my word.
impressive.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Sure. Better watch out next time. You'll see.
Sorry, sir. All right. So that was screwed that one up. I couldn't see the couldn't see where the what's it called? I couldn't see where the bottles were. Shame. Anyway, turned out fine. So anyway, what I was saying. While I'm here. Darn it. Really? Alright, well I'm gonna have to track it down now, because... Are you kidding me?
Easy, easy.
Okay. It'll survive, despite the gunshot wounds, so I'm gonna let it survive. Anyway, that was stupid of me. It's not happy with me. It's just gonna run off. Alright, that's fine. That happens. It's gonna try and kill it and skin it, but... Anyway, moving on. So, I was mentioning that, oh, you're 2 minutes behind now. Fantastic. I just got that, just if you're trying to keep a running tally of just how late you are. So yeah, in any case, right, I think another big part of it, another big part of this, this urban-rural divide and how the kind of, the rootless urban parasites, if you will, the fact that they don't have these kinds of roots in communities, and the fact that they don't think like rural people, they don't think like people at the margin, they think in this kind of imperialistic sort of way. Part of that sort of dictates what kinds of things they're going to support and what kinds of things that they're going to try to impose onto, onto the margin. What the content of their colonization is going to involve. Excuse me. And I think I think we can look at two real cases that typify this in perfect metaphorical ways, or at least maybe allegorical ways, a better way of saying it. The one I mentioned last week, which I just find hilarious, is the Chaz Community Garden, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, the weird hippie commune thing in the weird heavily armed hippie commune in Seattle, that kind of thing. The community garden, when they've realized that they had to grow food and then they realized they couldn't, the reason they couldn't is because they put potted plants on top of potting soil.
Hey there, mister.
In the pots, right? They didn't even, like, try to put them down. And it's because, in large part, I think the symbolism really just happens there. It really shines through, where we see that they.
Hey, mister, that's one nice-looking horse you got there. How
yeah.
about we see how fast it is? First
Okay.
one to Caliga Hall.
Okay, sure.
Why not?
Ready? Let's go.
Which way's down the hall? This way. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Might need to focus a little bit, but I'll try and keep talking. You got this, Peppermint.
You all right there, boy?
Guys above.
But yeah, so the idea here, right? So this this tendency to not even, because they don't think in terms of roots, right? They don't think in terms of things attaching themselves to their surroundings, right? They don't think in those terms at all, and because they don't think of those in those terms, they can't really conceptualize things doing that either. Right? Plants doing it, right? They have a problem with even agriculture setting down roots, since they can't set down roots. They're incapable of doing so, right? I'm gonna totally cheat here, and I hope this works, but we'll see. I don't actually have any guarantees that this will work.
You're good. Good boy.
Anyway, but yeah, they can't conceptualize the kind of connectedness in a community, right? That laying down roots kind of metaphorically represents. There we go.
I'm surprised I won, honestly.
Honestly, me too. I really am.
Darn it. Damn horse acting up on me. Of all the times.
Ain't your fault, ma'am. I cheated. Anyway.
Safe out there.
Yeah, you too. But yeah, I think that the lack of rootedness and the inability to even understand why you would need to or want to lay down roots is really fundamental to why the sort of central impulse expands outward so much, because they can't see that the more marginal people, the more marginal figures, would have a reason to keep things the way that they are. Right? Oh, hey, this guy. Maybe I need to get off. Of course.
You okay there, mister?
You need me to move?
Move?
Am I sitting in the wrong place?
Excuse me?
I didn't mean any offense, sir. Please.
I don't get your meaning.
I'm very sorry, sir. You have yourself a fine day, and I apologize for any offense I may have inadvertently caused.
What are you drinking, mister?
Nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
Why are you acting so strange?
I don't mean to. I'm sorry for any offense.
How could you have offended me?
I have no idea. But I had no idea how I offended the last fellas. And they stole my wagon on account of my impudence.
Stole your wagon for back check?
They didn't like my medical practice, I suppose. I was helping folk.
And that wasn't popular?
I was undercutting the competition. Or I was too colored. Or I was irritating in nature. Or I was some know-it-all, big city slicker-headed to mean some good old boys of my fine words. The exact variety of my sins was the source of some conjecture, so they undercut me.
That ain't very nice.
That was my impression. Still, compared to the gutting, castration, defenestration, and crucifixion they offered me, I felt I got off lightly.
Imaginative bunch.
Yes.
But
no great love of my medical practice. Too free with my wisdom and services.
Which way they go?
Down the road, that away.
Stay here.
I'm sort of forced to. Please, don't go to any trouble on my account.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna, so let's go do it. Let's go to take some trouble on his account.
Were you looking at that fella's wagon? I heard him say they was taking it to McComb's in it.
Okay, thanks.
McCombs End. I think we've been there before. I also think we've shot everything in sight there before. So I guess we're not going to get to robbing a bank tonight, probably, because I think we're going to do this first.
Rhodes, you don't want to miss this.
Although before I do get too far out of town, I'm going to set up and cut up some more bullets. Record. Anyway. So I think that is one little example that really just typifies what I've been getting at, right? That the kind of... There's a reason we meaning rural folks and people who don't like overly city-like folks, there's a reason we kind of...
Hey, you got anything for me?
Not that jokingly, but at least half-jokingly refer to them as ruthless parasites, right?
You got a decent
it's worth noting...
things by the looks of it.
Nice. $50. Not bad. It's worth noting that that's a little bit contradictory. At least most like plants that are parasites have roots. It's just they have roots into other organisms, and that's what makes them parasitic. Let's see if we need to buy anything. So you're 2.5 minutes behind, WizKid. WizKid says, I see, it's interesting because back in the day, some urban neighborhoods were really community-oriented. It makes me wonder what happened. Well, I mean, I can point you to some things that happened. Welfare statism is a big one. That was a massive shift in the culture that led to a kind of urban dependency. Walter Williams talked about this a lot. And he's brilliant on the subject. No. These are kind of pricey. Ooh, absolutely.
You will love that, I swear.
That. That'll do. That'll do for now.
I just hope nobody's missing this too much.
Okay.
Let's go, boy.
Kevin asked, did we ever discuss the psychology of in-game behavior of people as opposed to real-world behavior? You mean like how I act in, how I play Arthur kind of thing? If so, I know we did, I think near the beginning of the series, because I think that's one of the topics that I'm most interested in with respect to video games and gaming in general, especially RPGs, role-playing games, because there's a massive impact that has on, I think, on moral development. I mentioned the topic briefly in my Batman vs. Superman video. And I do have one that is written out, and I just need to make it. I do have another video that is exclusively on that topic. But I do want to get to it. I can talk about it now. But first, before we do that, I want to talk about the other issue that I think is absolutely an issue of this kind of urban versus rural divide that I don't think we give it credit for being enough. And it's the coof. You know what I mean, the coof. And especially reactions to the coof and how we take precautions. Right? I've been arguing about this a lot with a lot of people, mostly urban-type people, who think because I don't regularly wear a mask, which, by the way, I don't regularly wear a mask in public, that think because of that, I'm killing grandma. All the grandmas. And not just grandma, the women and the children, too. I slaughter them like animals, apparently. But I don't, because here's the thing. I live in a county with 5 deaths. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total deaths since the outbreak started. Anyone living in a city, whether they're wearing a mask or not, stands an exponentially greater chance of spreading the virus and causing fatalities than I ever could. Me being out here in the sticks. Okay, speaking of being out here in the sticks, let's shoot some people. Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah. Rifle, Let's load it with the proper ammo. God, I need more ammo. I forgot to make more ammo. Crap. Wonder if I can do that still. I can just sit down over here and do that. I think I can, which is silly, but can I? Oh god, I can. This is so stupid. Alright, I'm gonna sit over here next to their hideout and nah, I can't. Okay, I'm in the middle of a mission, so I guess I can't. I'll live. I hope. Let's go over behind this log.
Where you got the way?
Are you kidding? The hell's the range on this?
Be the one to put you in the ground.
But I think that, so first of all, there's obviously the issue of, in the world, why can I hit nothing with this stupid rifle? Alright. Anyway, so the dumb rifle didn't work. Let's try it again, though, because I'm not giving up just yet.
Well, boy.
There we go. Alright, got him. Great. Anyway, what in the world? There's more of them.
Boy, you're about to see the wrath of God.
Oh, there he is.
If you done, boys, I'll go.
Okay, great. Anyway, what I was saying is the reaction to the Koof in various environments, let's say. The sort of default reaction in the city is to wear a mask, right? And that makes some sense, medically speaking, I suppose, right? It makes it so that you're less likely to spread the virus, given that you are surrounded by people, and so you are very likely to spread the virus by default. So, you know, if you're wearing a mask, that makes you less likely, and that makes you less likely to threaten the people around you. Fine. Okay, great. But I think there's a few elements to this that we don't quite pay attention to, or at least pay close enough attention to. One is one is obviously that, you know, people are imposing their particularly urban solutions on rural people. Right? I can't tell you how many times, especially on social media, I have people tell me that, like I said, I'm killing every grandmother is by not wearing a mask when I go outside, even though I'm in a county with 400 people ever infected.
Okay,
you know.
come on. Get you back to the doctor.
WizKid says, "See, the funny thing about grandma killing is the only reason my grandmother is current in the ground isn't COVID, but because the stupid nursing home wasn't watching her properly." Yeah, I can absolutely understand that because that is a contrary factor, right? That's a confounding factor with this whole thing, right? There are obvious problems with delaying necessary but technically elective medical treatment because people are afraid to go to hospitals. Hospitals are closed. The hospitals have laid people off. All of this kind of thing. There are problems with this because, well, for example, don't want to get into too much detail, but my grandfather-in-law, or my father-in-law, not my grandfather-in-law, my father-in-law, has cancer. And thankfully, thank God, he was diagnosed and began treatment before all of this started. If he hadn't, he almost certainly would not have gotten an MRI. If he hadn't been diagnosed until after all this nonsense began, he almost certainly wouldn't have gotten an MRI, they wouldn't have found the cancer, and he'd be dead now. So, yeah, I can only imagine how many people this has killed by that kind of neglect. Right? But that's not even what I was really getting at. That's a side issue. And what I'm really getting at is the cultural differences. Ah, God, are you serious?
Just leave it alone, won't you? What the hell do you want with this thing? That all of you? Shit.
Alright. Well, that was ridiculous. It's kind of a waste of time. Anyway.
Whoa.
How do I get, like, medium speed? Would be ideal. My horse is out of range. Ridiculous. Alright, well, I'll find my horse eventually, but anyway. So I think, though, a big issue with this is it's not just... So, first of all, it's this tendency to expand, right? I only ever jokingly tell people that they should flee the city into the country. I mean, I generally think that's true. I think most people would be happier away from big cities, even people who are very culturally urban. But at the same time, I do think that, like, genuinely, if people want to live in the big city, and that's their kind of thing, then that's fine. I'm not going to begrudge them that. I don't quite understand it, but I don't begrudge them. Right? I'm not going to accuse them of killing grandmas by existing in the big city. That's not how things work. Right? But by contrast, they are very, very quick to blame me for people's deaths. I don't know whose, because again, 5 people have died in our county, and I know for a fact that I don't know any of them, and I've never interacted with any of them, because there's 5 of them. It's easy to keep track. But, right, so they're very quick to prescribe a solution for me that I know does not apply to me. That they don't know doesn't apply to me because they have no idea what's going on outside of their particular little bubble. That's super weird. That cart is just driving itself perfectly along the road with no driver. Someone's getting in for a surprise. Neat. Is my horse ever going to catch up? I actually don't know how close the thing is. It's probably stuck on that island, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to have to walk back or something stupid. That's something I can do off of stream, so I don't have to bore you guys with walking towards my horse because it doesn't listen. Anyway, that aside, my point, right, is that the sort of centralized people, the people who inhabit the center of society, tend to think that their solutions are universal solutions, and part of the reason is because they don't know what is outside of their small little bubble. People at the margin can see the center, right? I know what life is like in like New York and California, more or less, just because that's every piece of media that ever exists, right? Yeah, that's probably what I'll wind up doing. Camp is just as far, though. Either way, it's a pain, but whatever, it's fine. Actually, I think I can just buy the thing where my horse just comes to camp for me. I might just do that.
I don't need no company.
That's fine. Calm down. Anyway, but yeah, that's it's because in part they don't understand the margin because they don't see it. Right? It's over there. It's not here, and they don't have anything. They don't have any glimpse into it, like we who are out on the margin have a glimpse into the center. Because again, they broadcast themselves out to us. It's good. Good luck catching up. Oh, jeez. See if you can just listen at higher speed That might work. It might be horrible, but it might work. Ah, you missed about a bunch of me talking, though. Welcome to the present, though, for what it's worth. Anyway, though, right, so one of the things as well, like, and I think particularly you can look at masks. Masks as the solution. And not just in the context of they are prescribing a particular solution that does not apply to our circumstances. Right? That's its own problem. But masks in particular are an interesting, a very interesting case, let's say. Right? They are an interesting solution, and they are a very urban solution. They're a very central solution. They're a very rootless solution. What I mean by that is,
you know this feller, don't you?
Oh, here we go. All right, let's do this, and then I have a little demonstration I want to do to kind of demonstrate my point here before we leave. I'm going to save first because I'm going to ruin everything.
I did not count on seeing that wagon again. Nor you, for that matter.
Only people you won't be seeing are the folks that took it.
I take it they aren't the only ignorant bullying clodhoppers in these parts. But I can live in glorious hope. Now, it wasn't a trouble now, was it?
No, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. Let me give you something for your pleasure. What we got here? How about this? Provide a man a tincture, he'll be well for a day. Teach him to make one, he might be well a while longer.
I'll make sure to try and make this. Thank you.
Thank you. It won't work for anything chronic, but you may not need it to. Well, if you see me on my travels and you're in need of something, make sure you come and say hello.
Travel safe now.
Nice fella. Roots. Rootless urban parasites, indeed. Yeah, I did say a bunch of stuff about roots, basically. Tell you what I'm gonna do. Is there a stagecoach around here? Yeah, there is. Let's do that. Because I want to show you all something. Really want to show you all something somewhere. So let me go to that stage. Actually, you know what? I need to save first because I'm going to have to reload this save. So, save game. I probably won't. It's probably fine. I'm not, it's probably fine. But in any case, right, so I'm going to go and do something. And this will, I think, demonstrate a large part of what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to get across. Right, so what I'm trying to say is part of what I'm trying to say is I think that masks in particular as a solution are a very, very urban solution as opposed to a more marginal or more country or more rooted or more rural kind of solution. Is really it's nighttime, so hell, I'm getting a train ticket. This is ridiculous.
Oh, heavens.
Yep.
I thought I recognized you.
Yes,
Hello again.
Sir. I need to go to Valentine.
Okay, safe travels.
Because when in doubt, always go to Valentine for being sketchy. Anyway, right, so it isn't just what I have said about central people, urban type people, pressing themselves outwards into the in the margin. It's not just that. It's the kinds of things. That's the kinds of things that they're willing to press outwards, and why they're willing to press them out and the why is because they don't understand what they are imposing upon, and why what they're giving is not a gift, right? Because again, centralizers, these types of people think that whatever they are. Hang on. God, my wife says when he was talking about roots, it better not have been about turnips. I will tell that story. Just give me a minute. Oh no. Although you guys probably have heard this story. It was on Facebook, but I will tell it. It was a good one. It was a very good one. I'm an idiot. It's okay though. All right, so my horse is here. That's good. followed the train very quickly. Yeah, come here. What? No, not like that.
Haven't you caused enough?
Yes, I have, actually, but not going to stop me. You're actually riding the train in the proper fashion, WizKid. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. No, I don't want to rob the train. Calm down, tooltips. That's not what I was planning on doing. Anyway, yeah, so what I was saying, right, masks. Right, what's the deal with this? Why that in particular? Why is it that they need to impose masks? What's this? Who are you? Oh.
Colm O'Driscoll told me expressly to shoot anyone I saw around here, but me, I'm my own man.
Look at this fake. Careful, everybody.
You must... So long!
That all you boys got?
Well, let's put on our mask. Because I'm about to demonstrate something quite useful here. So why am I wearing a mask right now? I ask.
Move any further and I shoot! God damn it! I'm too afraid to die! You're in the wrong shot! Move in! I'll be waiting for you at the gates!
Why am I wearing a mask right now? I'm just curious. Can anyone think of any good reason why I would be wearing a mask right now?
Hey, this is my...
Uh-oh, I only have 4 bullets left. Alright. So why am I wearing a mask? Any guesses? Oh, is it because of the coof? I don't think so. I mean, yes, Arthur Morgan does have a highly contagious upper respiratory infection. In case you didn't notice, he has tuberculosis. But at the same time, let's go with just some regular bullets. Alright, so... yes, he does have a highly infectious respiratory disease, yada yada, okay, fine. That's not why I'm wearing a mask. I'm wearing a mask because I'm doing horrifying, evil, antisocial stuff, right? I'm not being a participating member of society. I'm wandering around murdering people. Because that's, you know, why you would extricate yourself from the norms of society. Right? You would, if you're going to do this sort of thing, if you're going to go around shooting people, or maybe shooting a horse, there we go. If you're going to do all this, right, if I'm going to murder a town, I'm probably going to want to do it anonymously. Right? Because obviously I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be recognized. I want to distance myself, maybe, I don't know, socially, or something like that? Distance myself from those around me in society. I want to distance myself even from society, I might even say. These ain't my horses, I can just do this, right? So if I'm just not a part of civilized society, I might as well kill the horses that are part of civilized society. Okay, I'm gonna reload, because you guys see what I'm getting at? I mean, this was way overkill, and I had no reason to do any of that. But I'm not gonna auto-save. Not to my auto-save. No, sir. All right, let's go back. I made my point. I put on my mask, and I committed my crimes, and I basically acted out of society. So why does one wear a mask? It's not just to keep one's anonymity. It's to distance oneself from the people around you. Yes, anonymity, but that anonymity serves a purpose, right? That purpose can be nefarious, like I want to murder a town. Okay, fine. But it can also be something like, I don't want to, right? So the anonymity of a mask can place a distance between you and the other person. Not just the 6-foot difference that we're supposed to stand at, but it can place this distance between you and I of us not seeing each other. And so us not communicating with each other. Us not being part of the same community as one another. And I'll say for an urbanite, that's not a problem, because what do you do if you're on the subway in New York City? You look straight down and you do not make eye contact with anybody. Because if you make eye contact with somebody, then that you're some disturbing weirdo who, likes to, I don't know, associate with other human beings or something else so terrible, right? As Kevin pointed out, right? I see it as more of a need of affirmation and a sense of solidarity that takes the unfortunate road of control. So masks, right? So there's that too. It's a kind of solidarity, but it's a kind of anonymous solidarity. It's replacing genuine community with conformity, right? It's exactly the kind of thing that an urbanite would do, culturally speaking, right? Somebody who is of urban culture, as opposed to the more rooted rural culture, where a community is an interaction between people who know each other, or who at least are familiar with each other, or at least want to see each other. If we want to be that reductionist about it, which we can be, that's fine. I'm fine being reductionist about such things. If that's what we're talking about, right? If we're talking about masks in the sense of social distancing, not in the weird kind of, not in the euphemistic kind of way, but what? Oh, hey, an autosave. Yeah. Right. But social distancing in terms of placing a psychological distance between you and me when we interact in society. That's the kind of thing which is perfectly native to an urban culture, but radically alien to a rural culture. Right? You guys are more or less rural folks. What do you do when you pass by somebody on the street? Otto's like, yeah, listen, we're in the South. I'm thinking, all right, Kevin, sorry. Anyway, no. But what do you do when you just pass by somebody on the street? You say hi. You say hello. If you're driving and there's somebody walking their dog down the sidewalk, you might wave, right? You don't do that in the city. You're a weirdo if you do that in the city. The only other place other than out in the country where you do that is on the water, right? If you're on a boat, you wave. That's the courtesy, right? But that's because there isn't this kind of what do you call it? There isn't this kind of very close interpersonal interaction, so you need to make up for it in a way, right? But there is nothing making up for it in this case, right? If you're in the city, if you're in an urban environment, you're not interacting in this kind of friendly, happy kind of a way with people, right? You're just doing your business. You're isolated in your little bubble, and you're doing what you need to do. And there are other people in their little bubbles doing what they need to do. And you don't interact with each other unless you need to, or unless you run into each other. Like, literally. So, wearing a mask has no effect on that kind of a lifestyle. Of course. You're just wandering around. You're not interacting with people. You just exist next to each other. Right? So, the urbanites for whom the mask actually works as a medical solution to an extent. Not perfectly, but to an extent. Right? Fine. And for them, not only does it work in a medical sense, but it works culturally. it is not a detriment to their cultural interactions. Their social interactions are not impeded by the wearing of a mask, by the anonymity that provides, because urban people are already anonymous to each other. They don't understand, and they're incapable of understanding, really, even if it's explained to them, and trust me on this, I've tried very hard to explain it to them. They're incapable of understanding that, one, it's not medically effective in cases where people are already spread out. And then further, they don't understand that it is a cultural and social imposition. Right? So they will say things like, well, it's just a mask. Well, why don't you just wear the mask, man? No, but it's not a big deal. It's just an inconvenience. It's not like it's a medical... It's not... You're not going to be inhaling carbon dioxide. And yeah, maybe there's a minor concern with that. I dismiss that more or less. It's not a big deal. Fine. For some people it might be, but for most people it's not. It's not a real concern. Right? For me, it's not a real concern, the carbon dioxide thing. But what is a concern is me actually talking to people and interacting with people and being a human being in a community. Right? If I want to actually be a human being in a community, I'm not going to be able to do so if I am isolated in this kind of a way. You know? What is this? Oh, look, more of them.
Get your backs into it. Use your legs. That's what you have them for Pete's sake. Now put your hands higher and push. Come on, show me something. You better not drop it. You better not. Come on, you pair of cream pies. Do you want this rally to happen or not? Why does this always happen to me? Have some respect.
Nah, let's steal your horse. Oh, darn it, where'd your horse go?
Spare me, please. Foreign
Oh.
devil, do your worst.
Okay, I'm gonna loot you.
You don't mind, do you?
Oh, he's got a letter to Pa. Let's read it. This is gonna be fun. Before we end it for tonight, let's end it on a nice note. Instead of me murdering a town, let's beat up a KKK member and read his note to his Pa. Sorry I left the house in such a huff. For that I must apologize, but the thing is, you're wrong, no offense. I simply do not care what Jesus or anyone else says. I'm a student of science, and as such, and having read a lot into the subject, I have to assert my position again, that commingling between the races is not merely wrong, but also dangerous. I mentioned this earlier about these kinds of things being backed by really terrible science. People don't believe this. But this is actually really the case. This was the scientific view. But to be quite clear, this is not a position, but a scientific fact. I have read all the research. Look at big cats. They're tigers and lions and leopards and things. They're all different. So that sort of proves it. The same with trees. There's more than one kind of tree or colors. There's red and blue and so forth. So it is with races. White people like us to dominate and others to do work to which they are suited. This is science. I'm done with school. I'm sorry about the money you spent, but the place is full of fools. I'm heading out west. I'll make my fortune there and prove my theory is correct. I'm not an arrogant blowhard, as you so rudely put it, but a man concerned with saving the human race. I am sorry we parted on such terms, but I am afraid I have no patience for fools, and to hear you, Mother and Teddy, speak, well, I felt nothing but shame. And you all well-educated and white. Shame on you. Well, I'm a man of destiny, and I plan to prove it. Nothing will stand in my way from forming a white utopia full of people just like me.
This is insanity.
Indeed. Yes, that is insanity. I'm going to loot your dead friends for a moment, and then I'm going to untie you, let you run along your way, and I will burn your cross for you. And then we'll call it. So that was fun. This was very much like I said, this was very much the scientific worldview at the time, the overly scientific worldview.
Have some respect. Just leave me.
I really don't have any respect, though. That's the thing. There. Let's do that. Oh, no. Okay, let's have a snack, and then we'll call it a night. Last thing, WizKid says Thomas Sowell has a fantastic book on this subject, a view of anointed changes over time. Interesting. That's not one I'm particularly familiar with, but it's anything by Thomas Sowell especially on the subject of race, and on the subject of especially urban decay. He's big on urban decay, and he's brilliant about it. So anything he has to say on the subject, I'm happy to read. So include that in the message you were going to send me about the other thing that I already forgot. Anyway, I think we'll call it there. The last little bit there is definitely something to keep in mind about. Again, I think that so much of the contentions in our society today are this urban versus rural divide. And really, I mean, it's not solvable because it's a fundamental cultural difference. But the way that it can be resolved instead of, like, solved is by letting each other live. You know, if we out in the country let the urban folks live in the city like they want to live, and they stop doing this whole imperialism thing, which they won't, but it'd be nice. If that were possible, hey, that would help. So, okay, that's a hopeless but a nice note to end it on. So let's call it there. I will say goodnight to all of you guys. It is around midnight. Yes, I will talk to you, WizKid, about D&D tomorrow, so that'll be fun. Even fun without you, and we'll let you know how things go. Sorry to miss you, but it'll be a good time anyway. But feel free to jump in on Discord and at least give your input. That's a thing you can do. Thank you, Kevin, and I will say goodnight to the rest of you guys, and have a good one. I will hopefully see all of you next week. We're getting close to the end of the Mass Effect of Mass Effect 1. A couple of things I want to mention to keep in mind about that. One, Mass Effect 1 is coming to a close. That means we are probably moving on to Mass Effect 2 next. But a couple of things about that. I'm open to change. I'm open to switching to something else similar, so maybe KOTOR 2, maybe Dragon Age Origins, something like that. But alternatively, if we are continuing with Mass Effect 2, I'm missing some DLC. So if anybody has a tip for where to find the DLC for Mass Effect 2 at a good price, or if you want to get it for me for the stream, I will thank you very much for that. Beyond that, keep an eye out for videos coming out. I have one at least that my wonderful wife just edited. So that should be coming up in the next few days. That has to do with SCOTUS. It also has to do with Tolkien. It ties in a little bit with the reading group stuff. So if you haven't caught up with the reading group stuff, that is all up, all finished now, so please do. Anyway, I think that's all the announcements I have for right now. So with that, I will say goodnight to everybody, and I'll see you all later. Bye.